We're out celebrating. We're in blue crushed velour sweatsuits. And so Herb says, tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m., meet us in the hotel. Because the President of the United States and the First Lady had invited you to the White House. We get on this bus, and this bus takes us to this little teeny airport. And there's an airplane waiting for us, but it's no ordinary airplane. It's Air Force One.
How was that? Whoa. Welcome to Games with Names. I'm Julian Edelman. They're Jack and Kyler, and we are on a mission to find the greatest game of all time. And on today's episode, boy, do we have a crazy one. We are covering Miracle on Ice with the 1980 national team goalie and gold medal winner, Jim Craig. We get off to talking one of the greatest upsets in sports history.
We executed the game plan flawlessly.
And then we also get into what the movie got right.
Wait, so the movie speech is actually fairly close?
Very close, yes.
Again, what Herb Brooks is really like.
If they don't like me, maybe they'll like
each other. When Belichick wasn't there, we're like, this guy.
Put money in the bank.
And we relive some of the most iconic announcer calls in sports history. Those are fun. And we do an impression of them.
They're great. The band on the field? We'll find out.
You got to stick around.
It's a wild one.
Let's go. Games with Names is a production of iHeartRadio. February 22nd, 1980. Olympic Center, Lake Placid, New York.
If we play the Russians 10 times, they might beat us 9, but not this time. Not tonight, boys.
Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. This is Miracle on Ice. Hell yeah.
It was fun.
Welcome to Games with Names. Today we are looking at Miracle on Ice, the Soviet Union versus Team USA in the 1980 Winter Olympics with the one and only Jim Craig. Now, Jim, the goalie, in one sentence, why is this game so important to you?
It's about believing in your dreams and the American way, to be able to have a dream and make it come true and represent something much bigger than yourself.
Yeah. Is this the greatest game of all time?
One of the things I always tell people, either you're creating the future or you're living in the past. So you always hope that there's a better game or a better athlete or the sport keeps improving, right? And, I always think in an era, to me, life has chapters.
Yeah.
And, now I'm in the grandfather chapter of my life. Yeah. It's like fabulous. And so I just think there's a chapter in time during the Cold War this was the greatest sports moment ever. Now, will it be or what? That's for other people to tell.
Yeah. Now, how often do you get asked about this game?
Every day.
Every day. Do you like it?
Well, it makes people happy, and you're a vehicle for doing something that is really important. You won a Super Bowl for the New England Patriots. I represent a country and won a gold medal.
Yeah.
This is a difference. There's a difference.
100%, especially with what you guys are going through.
Right. And so during that period of time, I think it's really special to, and I know you know this, right? There is a difference between being an underdog and a winning underdog. It's a mindset, right? And what I'm most proud of is our coach and the players that I was fortunate enough to play with. We were all winning underdogs, right? We weren't just underdogs, because underdogs have excuses.
Yeah.
Winning underdog knows that the challenge that they're being putting up against is really pretty difficult. Maybe it's halftime versus Atlanta for you.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between people who know how to win. And, one of my favorite sayings is winners win.
Winners win, baby.
Winners win.
Now, what's the difference between a winning underdog and an underdog?
Well, you've been in athletics long enough, and whether it's athletics or sports or life, people have talent, but they don't use that talent. So being a Boston fan, you think of Dustin Pedroia, a little teeny thing. And when you look at a guy like him, you say, he did all this with this talent?
Yeah.
To me, that's the winning underdog, because he or she does not take no for an answer. It's this mindset that they have that they're going to do whatever it takes to win. And when you play sport long enough, and, I think you're 12, 14 years, right? injuries reinvent yourself. You constantly have to figure out how to stay valuable, and it doesn't matter how it is. And that's the winning underdog. The underdog has an excuse that I got injured, I'm not quite as fast, all those other things. The winning underdog just says, no, winning is the most important thing, and I just got to figure out how to do it.
It's being able to adjust.
Yeah, it's adaptability.
Yeah.
It's dealing with ego and conflict. I always say to people, ego is swagger.
Yeah.
Conflict is change. If you manage that, you'll always be relevant.
I love that. Ego is swagger, and conflict is change. You got to manage both.
Yeah.
Wow. Just looking into this whole matchup, I mean, you guys were the average age you guys are 21. You're going against a team that's played with each other for freaking 32 years. And the two things that you've brought up already, a winning underdog, and then ego is what, Jackie?
Change.
No, the conflict is change.
Ego is swagger. Conflict is change. Yes.
I love that.
We're back.
Now, Jim, can you explain to me, a California kid, I grew up in the Bay Area, when 1994, the Sharks were playing for the first time in the Cow Palace. My dad rounded us up. We went in. We didn't even get into the first period. We got lost because of parking. Didn't know much about hockey. Go out to New England. And I didn't realize how hockey's in the blood out there.
Yeah.
What was hockey for you as a kid? Like, was that everything? Can you explain the love of hockey from someone who's from the Northeast, baby?
Well, so I'm one of 8,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so hockey was a vehicle for me.
Vehicle.
Yeah, it was a place where I could go and skate on the ponds, and it didn't matter how much money somebody else had or how big they were, because I was good enough. So if there was a bully out there, we could knock him down. When he hit his head on the ice, it hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It was an equalizer, but it was never, ever work. It was just something that I was drawn to and enjoyed.
I always explain to people that the reason why I'm so lucky, what you just said, it wasn't work. The reason why I'm so lucky is because my passion crossed with my talent. So then it never was work.
Yeah, and I think you can add to that, Jules. I think what happens is your passion crosses with the talent as it's developing, and then there's always people who tell you can't do something that either motivates you or shuts you down, right?
Yeah.
And so to a winning underdog, it motivates, right? And so, to me, it was always great to be told that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't big enough, I didn't come from the right area, because that was fuel.
Yeah.
That was something, and then not having many options to get to where I wanted to go, then I never played the sport for the adulation.
Yeah.
It was always a vehicle for me. It gave me opportunities that I never would have had.
The intrinsic rewards of proving people wrong, that's something that I've made a living on.
Oh, yeah, and that's why I was so excited about being here today. I thought there were so many parallels on, I would go to the Patriots practice and I would see Bill and I would sit there and I study people. I love to watch. And I would watch you go through your routine, but it wasn't mundane. It was perfection, right? And it was counting steps and knowing steps. And to me, it was the learning that constantly happens. And some people don't put the time in to do that. And, I remember one coach saying to me one day, he goes, goalies just stop the puck. And I would say, no, a goalie's job is to know all the strengths and all the weaknesses, not only of his teammates, but of the people he plays against, so that he can make your own skills better.
Subconsciously. It's like deja vu. If you know the weaknesses of each guy, then if this guy is struggling on defense, that there's probably that guy's strengths to do this little crust back, and he loves to go that upper part of the net.
I see you go another huddle, look at Brady and say, got him, come on, let's go. I got him. You know what I mean? You knew, you know what I mean? And, that comes from paying attention to the smallest little details.
Yeah.
Right? The smallest little details.
Fundamentals.
Yeah. And they change. and how do you stay relevant, right? That's really important. As a speaker that speaks and does leadership with people, I'm dealing with 5 different generations, from Gen Zs to millennials to, all these other ones. And so how do you take this event and make it valuable? What pieces of information can you provide that they can understand? And, I always suggest to people, or invite them to think this way, is I remember I told my son, I said, hey, JD, did you talk to Mom today? He goes, no, I don't talk to her. I text. And then my wife would say, Jimmy, did you talk to the kids? And I said, yeah. And she'd say, they called you? And I said, no, honey, I text Taylor, I text JD. And so everybody knows how to communicate, but only in the way they want to communicate. And so what happens is, I think today we really have to pay attention, and the younger generation has to understand how the older generation communicates.
Yeah.
And the older generation has to understand how the younger communicate. And then communication is a pretty good thing. And in coaching and in sports and dealing with, over your 12 or 14 years of doing this thing, you saw coaches not be able to get away with the things they used to do because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. And so staying relevant becomes a really big deal.
Yeah, you always have to evolve. And going into coaching, you're talking about coach, what you just said, being able to make something digestible for 5 different generations in a simple term. That's what a good coach does. That's what I always talk about with Belichick. He can make all this complex talk and all this, we got to do this, that. But at the end of the day, he would give us 3 keys on each side of the ball that we had to do. And most of the time, if we did those 3 things, we would win. A good coach can communicate to all in a simple form.
What's interesting is I say there is no loyalty in leadership. And so leadership is about being responsible for the betterment of the team, not the individuals. And if you want to be great at doing that, you can't worry about being liked.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to be respected. And so when I think of Belichick as I know him, and I look at Herb Brooks, it was really interesting. The thing I think they both had in common was, if they knew the individual they were dealing with, say it was you, Jules, was capable of doing more, they would never let you do less. One. Secondly is they would always put you in a position, if you were the tool for the team to be successful. And at the end, they really did care about you. But they were serving 2 masters. One was winning, and the other one was developing. And so when I look at Herb, he developed players. And people would say to me, was he so hard? And I'd say, if he took the time to spend all that with me to make me better, I was pretty lucky. Because I always had different goals. And, so I always tell people, you are what your goals are.
Yeah.
And as soon as you lose sight of a goal, then what are you going to do? You're going to live in the past, right? So it's interesting. I remember I came down to a Patriots practice once, and I said, "Hey, Bill, you're going to like wide receivers." He goes, "I don't need them. I got Gronk." You know what I mean? So he had ran to himself. Then I say to him,
Thanks, Coach.
No, the other point was he would say to him, yeah, how's your defense this year? He goes, it doesn't matter. Our offense is so good, they won't be on the field. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it was always a way of winning, right? And, when you think of catching after the ball and you look at the way you and Tom played, it was, you think about the relationship that a Belichick and a Brady have, is they both made each other better, right? But remember, you got the opportunity because Bill saw something in Tom and created a whole game plan around his abilities, which is really kind of interesting. And I remember talking to him and say, you got Wes Welker. Well, that's okay. We got Edelman. You know what I mean? And he knew it. You know what I mean? He knew that was going to happen and that was going to, transition.
Yeah. Now, tell us more about this relationship with Bill. How'd you guys become close?
I was in Nantucket doing a charity.
He's the mayor of Nantucket.
No.
Bill
The
Belichick.
part that was interesting is we were doing this fundraiser for Charity on Ice with AJ McClesco and her family were really big. And so there was a charity event where they auctioned off fishing with both Bill and I. And they paid lots of money to do this. And so I had never met Bill. And so when I got on the boat, we were up fishing together, and he loves to fish, I love to fish. And I said, hey, Bill, do you mind? I got a new profession. I would really like to pick apart the Patriots. You know?
Yeah.
I'd like to go by player. And so I started telling him some of my thoughts. And then all of a sudden, he kind of really enjoyed it. And then we became friends from then on.
Awesome. So how many, you used to come to our practices? I think I remember you.
I spoke one
Yeah, I
time.
remember you came and spoke to the team a couple times. Thing is, we always had, like, you saw the working environment. We'd have people there every once in a while, but we were so focused on, I mean, you saw our practices. We practiced hard. I'm assuming that you guys practiced pretty hard. Now, what are some of those similarities that Bill and Herb had?
Well, there's a saying that I like to use: don't confuse being busy with being productive. And every one of ours was really very productive, right? And so what Herb Brooks realized from the very get-go was he played in the World Championship. His biggest understanding was the best players in the world didn't play for the National Hockey League. They couldn't. There was a Cold War.
Yeah.
So the best players played for their countries. And so one of his biggest things that I saw that was so different, right? Great coaches see trends before they become habits. And a lot of it has nothing to do with their jobs. It just, they see trends, right? And so that was one area that Bill and I really got into and liked. But Herb saw that the Russians were the best conditioned hockey team in the world. And all other teams got close to them, but when it came time for the third period, they just weren't in good enough shape.
Yeah.
And so he ran into a friend of his out of Minneapolis, his name Jack Carrain, and we called him Cardiac Jack. And he, now you're talking 45 years ago, was a hit type professional trainer.
Yeah.
Had studied the Russians, all he had done.
Yeah.
So he was talking about quick twitch and slow twitch fiber and how it could be done, and you know what year you had to do it, and how old you had to be. And so Herb Brooks was working on a deck with this guy, and he said to Jack, he said, Jack, what do we have to do to beat the Russians? He goes, you have to change everything you do. Now here's Herb Brooks winning national titles and in college, and he says, what do you mean by that? Well, you have to get in shape. And so Herb had a team doctor who I lived with during the Olympics who had escaped from Latvia. And his name was Dr. Nagabats. And Dr. Nagabats spoke 5 different languages.
What languages?
Russian, you know.
All the Eastern stuff?
All Eastern stuff. So Herb went and coached in the World Championships a year before the Olympics, had Doc Nagabats talk to all these different coaches, got all their ideas, and constantly got better and better at what he did. And so I think the big part that you know you see with the Belichicks of the world and the other ones is that there's always a way to win. It's just never the same.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to see trends before they become habits. And you know, I could spend a whole day with you telling you the things that Brooks did.
Yeah.
That were amazing. But you've played sports long enough to know there are some coaches that are great at preparing you all week. But when the game starts, they open and close the door. They don't know how to do anything different. Some people coach, and they're not very good at preparing, but during the game, they're really good at adjusting. Very few are great at preparing and adjusting.
Yeah.
And when you get somebody like that, then it's really special. Like, let's see, you're wearing O'Callahan's jersey, right? Brooks would know when O'Callahan was going to do something stupid and pull him off the ice. You know what I mean? Because he knew he'd be so excited he was going to get a penalty.
Yeah.
So he had the ability, like, Jack, get off. You know what I mean? And he was that in tuned on intimidation of the referee, intimidation of the other player, you know, so many of the other different things.
Wow. Freaking Herb. Is that story where he made you guys run after the skate, or sorry, I'm a football guy. Skate. When he had you guys skate after the match or
The Norway game.
the Norway game. How many did you do?
So the part that's really interesting, this basically talks about trends before they become habit.
Yeah.
So Herb Brooks' challenge, to just kind of put this in perspective, right? They didn't want him to be a coach. They wanted Parker or Billy Cleary. So he had to convince him to be coach. Then the U.S. hockey was okay with preparing to compete, not win. And there's a huge difference. So when we talk about underdog versus a winning underdog, is either I'll go to companies when I speak to them, I'll say, okay, where are we? Are you guys preparing to win or compete? Are you looking to be bought or are you acquiring, right? Because it's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Jules, we played 61 games before the Olympics.
Yeah.
No other Olympic team had ever played more than 8.
Yeah.
We played 47 of those 61 on the road. We did it in 4 months. The NHL played 80 games in 9, right? And so we practiced the day of a game. If you didn't like how we played during the game, we practiced after the game. And it always comes down to the same thing. I always ask people, what's the most important thing in time management? What would your answer be?
Productivity.
It's knowing how much time you have.
Knowing how much time you
You
have.
can't be productive unless you know how much time you have. Herb Brooks had 6 months to get this hockey team ready to beat the greatest team in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so the tactics and the way he did things were based on how much time he had, right? So here we are, we're playing the Norwegians, we're getting killed as far as the schedule goes. We're going back and forth. The accommodations we had is you had 3 guys to a room. 2 guys got a bed and 1 guy didn't. And how that was decided was if you were the smallest guy, you got the cot,
Yeah.
right? You're hanging stuff inside the locker room. You're lugging all your own gear. You're trying to get it clean. So now we're playing a team that we think we're better than that. And so we play, don't take it really that serious. We tie it. The trend is Brooks knows we're going to play them in the Olympics. It's going to be the same thing. The Olympics back then wasn't set up for television. It was the real Olympics,
Yeah.
right? So it was how many goals for, how many goals against, and everything was metriced.
You guys beat the Russians.
Right.
And you could have not placed the next week.
Exactly.
Yeah, crazy.
So Herb says, this is a bad trend. You can't not take anybody, nothing. So even though we tied in the Norwegians, he knew we were going to play him in the Olympics. And so he stopped the trend from becoming a habit. And we skated and skated. But what he was doing that the Miracle movie didn't really do is one of our best players was a guy named Mark Johnson.
Mark Johnson.
Yeah, and Mark Johnson's dad was an incredible coach.
It's a great day for hockey.
Yeah, great day for hockey, right? Totally 2 different personalities. Mark's dad was positivity. Brooks was, more toughness, right? And I think Herb wanted to break Mark that day and let him know that his dad wasn't coaching him. So we skated and skated until Mark Johnson slammed his stick against the boards. That's how it really happened.
Yeah.
And Mark Johnson is the coolest guy you'll ever meet, never gets upset. So to get him upset was something he liked.
Now, when did you guys come together? And did you guys like Herb?
To me, I always liked Herb. I had just lost my mother to cancer, and I was there. It was a stepping stone to try to make it to the National Hockey League. When Herb asked me to play in the World Championships in Leningrad, Moscow, I couldn't. If somebody showed me in the lineup, I wouldn't even know what he looked like. You know what I mean? It was just you just played. So, to me, he always had my best interests in heart, and working hard was just part of the deal.
Yeah. But what about the boys? Like when you guys are in the locker room and coach ain't there, like when Belichick wasn't there, we're like, fuck this guy. This guy's making us run the goddamn hill. It's week 18. We got no knees. What's going on here?
Yeah, put money in the bank.
When did that camaraderie with the guys come together?
It was a strategy. It was his strategy.
Mhm.
If they don't like me, maybe they'll like
each other. Because you guys were all from different places.
Yeah.
And we were going to get into that, but.
Yeah, and so you had a lot of guys who had him for 4 years, Basically, it was Minnesota and 4 guys from BU.
And then wasn't there Minnesota BU? And wasn't there the Wisconsin boys?
Yeah.
A couple Wisconsin.
Well, but basically, guys from the East of Minnesota.
Same thing.
BU. When you're in Easton, was that like a big thing? Like, is that your dream when you were a kid to play at BU?
Do you want to hear the whole story?
Let's hear it.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm an Irish Catholic altar boy.
Yeah.
Okay, I live just south of the city of Boston. So Boston College is like a big deal.
BC.
Yeah, that's where all the Irish guys go, right? And so I remember the priest one day, Father Buckley said to me, "Hey, Jimmy, I know you really want to get a full scholarship to play hockey. How about if I bring you in to meet the head coach of Boston College?"
Yeah.
So I said, "Great." Now, the problem is I'm a senior in high school. I'm 5'3". I weigh 130 pounds.
Yeah.
So I get to meet Coach Saglaski, and I look in there, and he looks at me like, how the hell did this guy get in here, right? This is a big-time pro. He's 5'3". He plays for this place out in Easton called Oliver Ames. You know, we don't take anybody here unless they're at a private prep school or they're play, you know, AAA in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So I met him, and I said, you know, Coach, I'd really like to be part of your program. And he said, Jimmy, you're a fine young man, but I think you should stick close to home.
Wow.
So that's when I went back home. I mean, being one of 8, we had no money. And so I took my...
Pissed you off?
Well, I took my goalie mask over, and, you know, the realization and reflection. And I really think reflection is a really big part of growth, right? You have to really reflect of where you are, and are you willing to do the work?
Are you willing to do the work?
Are you willing to do the work? And there's no guarantees. So I brought my goalie mask into this place where a guy named Ernie Higgins made all the professional goalie masks. And I was in there, and all of a sudden Ernie's son comes in, Neil, and says, Jimmy, where are you going to school? And I said, you know, Neil, I don't know. He goes, well, I just got my first coaching job. Now, so Neil was an All-American goalie out of Boston College.
Yeah.
He just finished playing in the pros, and his first coaching job, right? And he says, hey, I'd love to have you come join me. I said, where's that? He said, Massasoit Community College. It's in Brockton. I said to him, it's not even safe there. You know what I mean? They practice like at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? I don't think they have enough jerseys for everybody, right? And he looks at me and he says, listen, if you don't think this is the best opportunity of your life, I don't even want you to come. So I went home and I reflected. I said, well, where am I going to go, right? And then I changed my mindset, which is something that was really valuable and it really helped me. And I said, I'm going to have an All-American goalie who just finished the pros coach and mentor me. He will never be down at this level ever again. This is an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
So I went there with a different mindset. All of a sudden I grew 7 inches. We won a national junior college championship. And at the last game, before the game started, Neil come up to me and says, well, Jimmy, good news and bad news. I go, what's the good news? He goes, there's 2 scouts in the stands. One's from Providence College and one's from Boston University. And he said, if you play well, you got a chance. So I had like the game of my life. I think there was 5 people in the stands. 3 of them were my family members, right? 2 of them were scouts. And that's when Jack Parker offered me a full scholarship to Boston University.
Yeah.
But Jules, it doesn't get easier because he offered it, but the problem was he had already given it away. And this kid, Mark Holden from the area, had a choice to go to Brown or to go to BU. If he went to Brown, I would go to BU.
Yeah.
And so when Jack said that to me, I said, I don't care if he comes. And he started laughing. He goes, no, Jimmy, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right. And the innocent part about that was, what do I care? My dreams are I want to play in the Olympics. I want to be a pro. I got to be better than everybody. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And if I compete, I compete. You can't decide you're not going to compete. And so Holden decided to go to Brown, and he didn't do it because it was an Ivy League school. He did it because BU had an All-American goalie that was only a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so he figured he'd play quicker. And so that was an opportunity. And so in life, you have to make the best of the opportunities. So I remember going into BU. I'd never been in the city. I'd never seen a trolley. My poor mother brings me in. I'm scared shitless, right? I get there the first day, and I meet one of my teammates. His name is John Bethel. He's from Pointe Claire, Quebec or someplace, right? And John goes, hey, Jimmy, nice to meet you. He goes, welcome to the team. I said, thanks, John. He goes, hey, where did you go to school? I said, Massasoit. He goes, is that a private prep school in Connecticut? And I said, no. He goes, is it a junior A team in Canada? I said, nope, it's a community college. And the point was, you don't go to Boston University out of Massasoit Community College. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But the point was, and I think you can relate to this, is I tell people when I speak to them is every year you have to make your team and earn your position.
Every year.
And if you have that mentality and you don't use hope, because I tell people hope is not a strategy, right? Preparation is a strategy.
Yeah.
You know, being a little smarter, a little better than you were the day before. So all of a sudden, the All-American goalie from BU loses his first game, second game, third game. And before you know, they put me in, and I just never looked back. But timing isn't big.
Yeah.
Opportunity, having someone believing you, but putting the work in, I think is a really.
That's everything. I mean, I'm a JUCO guy. I went to JUCO for a year, and then went to Kent State, and I can fully relate to that. Your mentality when that scout came in, or when who was it? The All-American. What was his name? The coach that at your JUCO?
Neil Higgins.
Is that when you first found out about your underdog versus the winning underdog? Because you said
You know,
at
what's
first,
really funny is you have a choice when you have these dreams, right? So as a young boy, I had 3 dreams.
yeah,
Really simple. I wanted to get a full scholarship to go to college because I wasn't going to college otherwise.
yeah,
I wanted to play the Olympics and represent our country,
yeah,
and I wanted to play in the National Hockey League.
yeah,
And, you know, there's a saying I use, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough,
yeah.
right? And so
Your dreams don't
they,
scare you.
they're not big
It's
enough.
fucking, you got some sayings in this,
Yeah,
baby.
I
We're gonna
Love it.
Yeah.
tag them up, baby.
But the real meaning is I don't look at personal sacrifice as something I did. I look at it as an opportunity that somebody gave me. So when my mother had to convince my father to put me into hockey, and I'm one of 8 and spend that money, I didn't have any personal sacrifice. She did, and my father did, and the people there. When I look at community and all those people who gave me rides, and I went there, didn't even know you needed equipment, and people never made you feel embarrassed. All of a sudden, they gave you some skates, and they brought you to this, and they brought you there. And then, so what happens to me is one of the tools that I try to use is I didn't have the courage to let people down. People who believed in me, you know, I felt that I used that as a tool. So when someone says to you, you can't, what are you going to do? Just say, well, Jules said I can't do it. I guess I can't do it.
Yeah.
Or say, well, F him, right? I will do it.
Yeah.
And how are you going to do it? And that's why failure isn't fatal, but being afraid to is.
Yeah.
And when you all of a sudden reach a level in the sport where you're not as good as people think you are, that's pressure, man.
That's pressure.
That's pressure because you can't be a winning underdog anymore. You can't. You know, it's like that favorite poem, "The Man in the Mirror." I don't know if you've ever read that one,
No.
but the net is you can fool everybody else in the whole world, but when you look at yourself in the mirror, you can't fool yourself, right?
No.
And so you know when you're done.
That's when I felt it.
You just know when you're done, right?
When your athletic performance, I mean, that brings me back to when you throw on the film and you don't recognize that guy. And like you said, that's the real pressure because you've already set a standard of what you've performed for the last.
Then you have to really, what I call, when I wrote my first business book, there's a thing called managing ego and conflict, right? Your ego is what got you there, but you have to be able to manage that, right? And so when you get to that point is, what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
Are you doing it for the adulation, or are you doing it because you're the best professional at that position, right?
As an athlete, that when you play professionally, you're going to feel pressure no matter where you are in your career. When you're a young guy trying to make the team, you're trying to make the team, you're trying to earn a role, You're a superstar. You're trying to stay that. You did that. But, when you said, when people say you can play and you eventually can't, that's when you start feeling the pressure, in a paraphrase. I remember that.
It just jumps right out at you. There's not even, it's an aha moment.
No, it's just one of those, but that's one of the, like you said, because your ego over the years, that's like the biggest thing you have to swallow is when you can't go out.
Well,
and
when
do
you
what
can't use it as a tool,
Yeah.
and it becomes really more, like, I don't know. I had back surgery, and I used to play golf really well, and now I started to play, and I said, Jesus Christ, I'm not as good as I used to be because I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not, you are what you are. It's
You
a
are
different
what you are,
chapter, right?
without a doubt.
And it's, do you want to put the work in?
Yeah.
You got to reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah, but even that point in my career, I was putting in so much work. I was, the older you get, you got to work harder and harder and harder because, like you said, you got to continue to evolve and reinvent yourself every year. And when you can't and you plateau, that means you're done.
Well, I think
Because the league just learns you.
I think what's interesting with a Belichick and a Brooks is they knew if that was a fuel that was going to help you or hurt you, and knew how to play that card on you.
Oh, he played it on me all contract negotiations. Team-friendly deal. I'm the worst guy. Now, Herb, what's the difference between Herb and your college coach, Parker?
Parker was an incredible competitor, and he knew how to do things a certain way, and I'm sure he evolved over time, but Brooks created the future. He saw things before they happened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real deal.
He is so organized. Brooks was so organized. Timing and what we did was not a miracle. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But the reason why we won was because we executed the game plan flawlessly, and that means certain people have to step up. There's certain timing. I mean, we had a guy who teammate recently passed away, Mark Wells. Right, he was on the team, not on the team. They brought him back, but Herb brought him back to play against one player. And Mark was incredible at that game, at that one player.
Yeah.
And that's the vision that he had. When O'Callahan got hurt and he was half the guy he could be, he was such an important ingredient in the locker room that he had to be there.
Yeah, you can't mess the feng shui of the team up.
Well, but when you go there, here you have Herb, who could really make the general manager really happy by getting one of his kids' friends in and do the politically correct thing. But that Herb didn't care about that.
There's no popularity in leadership, right?
No, there's no loyalty in leadership. People look at loyalty as though people aren't being loyal. I would challenge that, your old coach Belichick was incredibly loyal to you, do anything for you, but it never felt like that.
Yeah, because you knew the winning was the number one loyalty.
Well, it's his job.
It's his job. That's his job. Can you tell us the story with the shamrocks on your mask? Irish Catholic, is it just that?
It was good luck charm. The shamrock was like my good luck charm. And so Jerry Cheevers from the Bruins, he used to take stitches and put them on his mask. And I said, well, I got to come up with something.
Hell yeah.
So it was the shamrocks.
Yes.
That's the swag right there. That's the ego swag, baby.
Yeah, back in the day, there was no painting of the mask back then. But, sometimes you have to give yourself something to be a winning underdog, right? And so remember when I told you that BC coach said, you're a fine young man, you sit close to home?
Yeah.
Well, Boston University, in the 3 years I was there, played BC like 14 times.
How we do?
I personally played it 14 times. And after every game, there's a tradition in hockey that you go and you shake the other team's hands. And so Coach Zaglaski was still there when I was there. And so I remember after every win, I'd go shake his hand and say, thank God I wasn't good enough to go to your school. And one of them was a national title. We beat BC in the national title.
Hell yeah.
Got him.
So it's that type of thing. It is, who is it that's going to help you when you don't feel like doing the work, I remember when Bob Wolf was my agent, he'd have this couple, I forget what the pitcher's name was, but he'd have in his glove, these sons of bitches are taking money out of my kid's mouth. And he'd look at it, get so angry, and he'd throw the ball harder. You know what I mean? So there's always a little something that it has to get you, going, right?
I used to put lily pads on my cleat for my daughter. Her name's Lily.
Yeah.
You got to have something.
Well, look down and say, what's the purpose, right?
What's the purpose?
What's the purpose? Yeah.
We've all got a thing, an obsession. For some of us, it's vintage fashion. our cars, anything we can collect. There's a place where they all live under one roof. eBay, where closets get filled with statement pieces and vintage finds, where designer handbags are the real deal. And all your favorite dead stock sneakers wait for you. Maybe you live for uncovering rare trading cards. A quick search on eBay is like opening a door to stacks of them. And if it's your car that fuels you most, eBay is a stocked garage filled with any part you need for any DIY job. The best part is on eBay. It doesn't matter what you're into. Maybe you're building a museum-worthy vinyl collection, covering your walls floor to ceiling in retro movie posters, or just can't stop thinking about antique ceramics. That 2 a.m. can't get it out of your head thing, it's on eBay. So go find what keeps you up at night. eBay, things people love. Let's go back to around February 22nd, 1980, and we like to go over pop culture, what was going around in the world. Number one movie, Cruising. Which one is that?
Al Pacino?
Al Pacino.
William
You see that, Jim?
No.
No? We're probably locked in, ready for the Soviets. Number one song, Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen. No, that one.
Yep.
You Queen fan?
I'm a fan of all good music.
Yeah.
There you go.
Me too. Studio 54 had its closing party. Did you guys get to hit that after?
We've been there.
You've been there?
Oh, yes.
How is Studio 54?
It's not a Diddy party.
So that was a fun time.
Yeah, different.
What was different about it?
It was just probably like any place that goes on. There was a thing to go and thing to do.
Yeah. Now, did you guys? Who was the going out boys on the team?
I'd rather keep that as secret.
Yeah, we'll keep that. Billy Joel's 52nd Street wins a Grammy for Album of the Year. Love Billy Joel.
More good music.
What was your life like around this time in 1980? What was going on around this time? Do you have a girlfriend, wife? Just everything was about hockey?
You know, you're so entrenched in trying to create something
Yep.
and be something that, you know, you're very structured back then. You know, you have, you know, the Olympics, but once the Olympics are over, it's just crazy, you know, try to figure out who you are and what you're doing. That was a little more crazy time.
In the sports world, in 1980, Super Bowl champions, 1978, 1980. Steelers, Earl Campbell was the MVP. That guy was a load. Stanley Cup winners was the New York Islanders. Did they go 3 in a row in this one? 4 in a row?
First to 4.
Ken Morrow.
Holy shit. Hart Memorial Trophy, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
The great one.
You got any Gretzky stories? You know Gretzky at all?
I know Wayne. I remember my second game in the NHL. I'm playing with the Atlanta Flames.
Yeah.
And I've never even been to the rink. And they get there and they have the Canadian national anthem going on. And I don't even know what the flag is. I don't know what ends my end. You know, it's the first time I've been in the building. I'm playing. And so I remember Wayne afterwards was pissed at me because, you know, I didn't look at the Canadian, flag. And I said, Wayne, I didn't even know where it was. You know what I mean? The sport was a Canadian sport. Our win was not very well received. It wasn't entertainment yet because there wasn't enough money to be entertainment.
Yeah.
You couldn't talk to your teammates. You know, it was really really different. And so it's so nice to see the game change and you know, basically now all sports are entertainment.
Yeah. Did Gretzky score on you?
I'm sure he has. I don't know how many times, but I'm sure he has.
Is he the most electrifying guy that you played against, or who was someone that you were like, it's going to be a fucking long night?
There was a guy that nobody really knew. His name Kenta Nielsen. He played for the Flames. He's a Swede. He was just an incredible player. He could do anything that he really wanted to do. You know, Bossy was a great player. Guy Lafleur was a great player. You know, you had so many different players. The game was a really wide open game there. When Wayne played, he was very well protected, you know, so that really helped. Our guy, Mark Johnson, was a great player, but people got their names in the paper by beating people up from our team. You know what I mean? And so there was no safe thing. And, you know, it's a big transition. All of us had gone to college with college degrees. The NHL wasn't used to that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a big transitional time.
How's the game then changed from the game now?
clutching and grabbing, and just the physicality that was done. It was different. The
In
equipment,
the past.
yeah, the equipment was so bad.
Yeah.
You see goalies now let it hit you. You didn't let it hit you; it hurt. You know what I mean? Now they play to have it hit them. You know what I mean? So much of the game for a goalie was angles, so they would miss the net. I remember when I first started, our coach was Jerry Chivias, and he said, "Hey, Jimmy, if that shot's coming high and it's at your shoulder and you're up by a couple, to get your shoulder out of the way.
Yeah.
You get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, who cares if you win 5-3 or 5-4? Don't hurt yourself on that.
Jesus.
It was crazy. Yeah.
So you used to take, that has to hurt, huh?
It was
like
a felt pad. A felt pad.
Yeah. You could just dart it up after a game.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. That thing flies.
Yeah, the pads that we had were made out of deer hide that were 30 pounds. The ones they have now don't weigh 5.
No.
They collapse, so they cover areas. It took us a year to break them in.
You have your teeth?
Yeah.
Did you wear mouth guard? How come every hockey guy I know that doesn't have teeth?
Well, because they weren't a goalie.
The goalie has the mask.
Yeah.
What was it like to see Ken Morrow go off and win 4 Stanley Cups?
Kenny Morrow is probably my closest friend and the best guy in the world. He is a guy that is so humble. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, so proud of him.
How come you guys were so close?
We just hit it off. You know what I mean? Just we started when we played over in the World Championships in Moscow, and he's quiet. Really just goes and gets his job done. Kind of really good guy.
Before we move on, I read that there was a no beard, no facial hair rule.
So, you always talk about Brooks and maybe how he's a little different. And so Herb had this saying that said, no beards on the team, except Kenny Morrow, who had one before he got here. You know what I mean? And the reason being is Kenny Morrow's beard wasn't just to grow a beard. It was who he was. And so Herb had to figure out that if you made Kenny Morrow shave his beard, that was going to do something to him other than let somebody grow a beard, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Jackie, let's break down this
I
Soviet.
love the way they help you out here. All this work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Jeez, this is awesome.
Hey, this is a team, baby.
That's right.
Well, listen, you're only as good as your team. is.
Only as good as your team.
That's right. The A team over here. Should we get into these Soviets real quick?
Let's set the stage for the Soviet.
I mean, these guys were the most dominant guys in hockey at the time. Won 4 straight gold medals, 64, 68, 72, 76. They won all but 3 world championships since 1963. They'd won all 12 matchups with the U.S. up until this point. Led by goalie Trichyak, who was said to be the best goalie in the world. Other notable guys, Boris Mikhailov, the captain. These guys were a force to be reckoned with, the evil empire at the time.
Jules, what a lot of people don't know now is when, say, the Olympics and you play the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah.
You're playing just the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union Red Army team was put together at Dynamo, it was the best communist players in the world that they took from every country. So you had people from Latvia, you had people all over the place. So now they get to represent their own countries and compete against them. But they took the very best in all communist countries.
Jesus.
And made them part of this Red Army team.
So what's your perception of this specific team when you guys sign or when you're going through all your hell week, all your prep? This is a team that everyone's got to beat. What are the guys thinking about this squad?
In any sport you're trying to be a professional at, you admire people that are really good. Yeah. Right? And then you emulate. And, for me, trying to emulate someone wasn't just one player because his skills wasn't good enough. You had to emulate people who had all these different skills and try to make them part of your own. Yeah. Right? And so all of us are trying to make it to the National Hockey League. That's a goal. And these are stepping stones along the way. And so, people always ask us, why did you play the Russians in Madison Square Garden 2 days before the Olympic Games?
Get a little taste of them.
Well, the reason is either you're preparing to win or compete, right? Our coach had never coached against them. Yeah. So he had to coach against them. We had never played against them. So we had to play against them. And so as badly as we got beat, there were things that we learned and some things that we could adjust to. So for me, right, playing the Russian team for one period of playing against the Russian was playing a whole game against someone else.
Yeah.
So I changed my strategy. I broke it into 3 games of 4 5-minute periods. And after every period, I took all my equipment off, put it back on, and refocus. And then I started to really kind of get laser focus on parts of the game that I thought were really important. First 5 minutes of a period as a goalie, you don't want to give up a goal. You don't want to give up a goal after your team scores a goal. And you certainly don't want to give up a goal in the last minute to take momentum away. So what I did is I broke this game into 3 separate games of 4 5-minute periods and had the things to focus at. And then my goal was don't give up any goals in the 3rd period.
Yeah.
And, as a goalie, you can't win a game, but you can lose one.
Yeah.
And I think how consistent a goalie plays, not how many saves he makes, but how consistent your team can rally around and get used to. You can't get used to a guy that's a quarterback that's going to go incredible, but then the next game throw 5 interceptions. Right?
Yeah.
And so you have to know what you have. And so I really believe that what happened was we broke it down for, if you look at a game and say, oh my God, I got to play 60 minutes, it's like, oh, that's hard. But if you say, hey, I got these little separate things and you can play through those, I think it's important.
Mini games.
Well, look at you, when you guys came back from Atlanta game in the second half, that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
You broke it down into segments on, I can't give up a one, I got to score one, we got to make this. Yeah, we got time left, and so you became razor focused.
Yeah, you focused on one play at a time because, one big play is not going to get you 24 points. So if we all collectively focus on our job every single play, we're going to give ourselves the best possibility to win. So did you admire any of these
All
players?
All of them.
Specifically, who was one? Was it the
Tretiak? He set the whole different standard. The way he worked, what he did, how he did things.
Why? What made him different? How did he work?
He kept on reinventing the position. We used to do a 2-legged pad stack save, and he figured out how to go over and do it with one leg and get up. And the other thing that I don't think Tretiak gets a lot of credit for, when he was a young goalie and his team wasn't all that great, he won the games. But when he got older and the team was really good, he had to keep them in games until they felt like playing. And that is really hard. When you look at goalies and you say, oh, man, he made 35 saves and the other guy only had 12 shots on him, that has nothing to do with it. I mean, to me, the way they evaluate goalies is obsolete, a shot on goal. I did this stat when I was younger. I say, when you have a really good high school team and they shoot 100 shots on a goalie in a practice, they might only hit the net 30 times.
Yeah.
When you have a great college team and they take 100 shots on a goalie in a practice, they'll hit it maybe 80 times. When you play in the pros and they have 100 shots, they hit it 100 times.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have a goalie and he's out there and they're missing the net, it's because it's perfect positioning. Or they're passing the puck instead of shooting it when they should because they don't want to shoot. And those stats don't come up. And that's something that Tretiak, I watched it and I noticed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the hidden yardage. It's like the Vince Wilfork of hockey. This guy takes up a double team. He's taking up 600 pounds every play so his linebackers can get free and make a tackle. But we don't get a stat for that. It's kind of like a goalie. Now, take us to the Olympic Village. Now, when you guys are there, are you guys packed up with your USA jackets on and like you guys go to the local fountain and you see like, is there like the Russian hockey team over there and you guys are like looking at each other, or did you guys ever cross paths?
Our Olympic Village turned into a prison. There was nothing there any good. We lived in trailers.
Yeah.
So it was, our trailer was myself, Arizioni, Billy Baker, and Phil Fracotta. We started the Olympics before the opening ceremonies, and we played every other day. There was absolutely no time for anything. The only thing we went and saw was Haydn.
Oh, Eric Hayden, beast.
And he was just so great and stuff like that. So, no, there was no time.
What about the Centipede video game? I heard,
yeah.
I heard you had a little time for that.
I love that. And, it's really funny, and maybe this has happened in your career, right? You've got some teammates who don't like it if you like other players on other team because they're on the other team, right? And to me, I just admired talent,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't care who they played for because when it was time to play, it was time to beat them. It didn't matter who it was. And whether it was my brother, it didn't matter. When you compete, it's time to compete, right? So we had, I forget how to pronounce his name, but we're playing Centipede, and he wants a turn. And I say, okay, you have a turn. And we kind of said, well, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And I had won the game. And so I said, I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow or something like that to him.
So, for who was that? One of the Soviets?
Yeah. He was one of their best youngest player, too. I forget what his name is.
Fetziov.
Hey, it was Crouton to Anton to cut your leg off.
Makarov.
Makarov.
Future Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just a great player.
Did being a hockey player trump being from different countries? Or did you guys, like when you're in the Olympic Village, you guys are, USA, this, but if you saw a hockey guy, you're like, oh, that's one of our bros.
We didn't really see anything.
You didn't see anything?
No.
You always hear the crazy stories about Olympic Village.
The ones who have one game and stay there for 2 weeks, I guess they have a little bit more time. You know what I mean? And they don't have Herb Brooks as a coach.
Now, did you develop any relationships with these guys after this game?
Great story. So I'm coaching our kids, and I'm in Rainham, Mass. And I walk in, and the guy who's running.
What year is this?
Let's see. Got married in '86. It was probably early '90s.
Okay, early 90s.
Yep. And so the guy who runs the snack bar is a Russian. His name is Vladimir. So he was great. So I go in, and Vladimir says, "Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?" I said, "Good." Vladimir goes, "Hey, you're not the only gold medalist in here today." I said, "Whoa, that's great. Who else?" And so he introduced me to Vladimir Luchenko, who's a 5-time. He's the Bobby Orr of their defenseman over there.
Yeah.
And so Vladdy and I became like incredible friends. We coached together for over 12 years. I helped him get the head coaching job for Europe for the Rangers, and I learned so much about his life, right?
Yeah.
So I remember one day we're going to walk our dogs, right? And so I meet him over at his house, right? So I have this Weimaraner, right? And, Hudson was like a show dog. He won Westminster. I mean, he's a stud of a hunting dog, right? So Vladimir shows up. He's got a little Yorkie. And so back then they kind of arranged marriages. So Vladimir's wife was a ballerina.
Yeah.
And, the Russians thought was, well, if you hitch up a big, strong guy with a ballerina, you're going to produce a really great athlete,
player,
right?
Yeah.
So I go to Vladdy, you have any kids? He goes, yes. I go, what? 2 daughters. I go, well, they must be good looking. He goes, no. So he had a heavy set daughter, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So anyway, we became incredible friends, and he told me a story one time. So I said, Vladimir, you were one of the youngest guys on the Russian Red Army team. He goes, yeah. I said, did you ever get new equipment? He says, yeah. I said, was it brand new? He said, oh, no, we never got brand new equipment. He says, one day I got so excited. I get these new skates. I'm skating on the Baltic Sea, and he's skating around. All of a sudden, he starts falling in. And he's a big man. He's like 6'3", right? Big, strong guy. He goes, I'm swimming. So finally, he said, I'm going to give up. I'm going to drown. And he said he's in 4 feet of water.
You hockey guys going on that thin ice, man. I see that as a California kid. I see that ice. It's crazy.
Yeah. But he was so great. We would play like men's league game. I'd be a defenseman with him. We play together every Christmas. We still stay in touch.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, their way of life was being a hockey player was the best, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah. No, definitely not. I mean, shit. You don't score a goal, you get your hand chopped off. Let's jump into the Team USA, Jackie.
Just a real quick follow-up. You had a dog win Westminster Dog Show?
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you tell us about that a little bit more?
Well, Hudson, he's no longer with us. He has passed away, but he was the most bred Weimaraner in the country. He had won Uber. He won Best of Breed and for Weimaraners in Westminster. Yeah. So.
What a stud.
Did you walk him out there?
Oh, no. I didn't do that little trot. I'd be afraid of falling down.
That would have been a sight to see.
Yeah.
Jackie, set the stage for Team USA.
So let's talk about Team USA here. As we know, led by Herb Brooks, Craig Patrick, the assistant there, held tryouts famously, seen in the movie, summer of 1979 out in Colorado Springs. We talked a little bit earlier, 9 guys, Minnesota, BU, 4 from BU, 9 from Minnesota. We had the East Coast versus the Midwest rivalry going on there. And the average age of these guys, 21 college kids, as opposed to the Russians, about 27. And these were the comeback kids, baby, trailed in 6 of 7 Olympic Games wins, led by Mike Ruzioni as the captain, and famous cone headline. We know about those guys, 17 goals, 20 assists. That was Pavlovich, Harrington, and Schneider. And we always highlight the legends on here, but I mean, all these guys it's all legends. Ken Morrow, Mark Johnson, Dave Silk, Jack O'Callahan, Jim Craig. The list goes on and on, baby.
So when you guys first go to tryouts, is it pretty clicked up? Boston boys with the Boston boys, the fucking Midwesties are with the Midwesties.
Absolutely.
Absolutely?
Yeah.
When did it break?
Well, one thing I think that is a misnomer to most people about how Herb picked this team, right? Everybody knows about the National Sports Festival now, right? And that's where they bring the best athletes from around the U.S. and they get to showcase their talents for hopefully being sponsored to go to the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Well, Herb Brooks created that. And so what he did 3 years before the Olympics, he had a lot of these players play with 4 or 5 different teams, like the Mid-Atlantic, the East, the Midwest, and that. And he saw all these players, and he created a scouting of all coaches to watch certain players. And so he had been watching them for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so he really knew what was going on for that. So, Jules, maybe this has happened in your career or not, but Herb Brooks, when he picked the initial 26 guys, he picked guys he knew never would make the team, but people didn't understand why. It was to create a culture.
Yeah.
Les O.J. was not going to make the team, but he was going to help bridge the gap between the guys from the East and the guys from the West. Dave Delich wasn't going to make the team, but he was going to really show people, a certain talent. Then you had Jackie Hughes, who made it so we could play against these NHL teams because he was tough and there was an ingredient for everything that went on. And so when you hear that saying, I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right players, it's because he had a plan.
Yeah.
And so in this day and age, especially when I'm speaking, is you see HR, they don't allow conflict to happen. And when you don't, it doesn't go away. It just stays and festers, right? So you see this O'Callahan fight versus McClanahan in the movie, right? And if you really watch that clip, you'll see how 4 or 5 times that was going to be stopped. But as it plays through, now Brooks knows what he has to do where the problems are, right? Because if not, people are going to split up and team up. And this conflict will continue to go on. So I really think conflict is a really important thing with every team, to let it happen so that you can figure out what goes on.
You get growth.
Yes.
That's how you get growth, because if someone festers on something and implodes, then there will be no communication,
right.
And that's when, you get a blown coverage and in our sport. Now, why did Herb choose you?
I think it's the winning underdog. That I don't think he knew how I would I don't think he knew if I would win in the biggest situations, but he knew I wouldn't be nervous.
You didn't take the test?
Well, that's a much more complicated thing. So here's the deal. He has this take-home test. It's pretty simple. I'm living with the team doctor, Dr. Nagabats, and my mother had just passed, and so I used to call home every night, checking in with my father.
Yeah.
And this one night I called home, he was crying. He still had my mother's clothes in the closet. He had just lost his job, and I felt really guilty about chasing my career and not helping out the family. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you know. So that night I decided if I don't take the test, I had made a promise to my mother. She said, listen, no matter what happens to me, if you have a chance to represent our country, you have to promise me you will and you won't turn pro. So I made that promise. And so all of a sudden now I said, well, if I don't take this test, Herb Brooks will send me home and then I'll just do whatever that does, right? But the brilliance of Herb was I lived with a team doctor. The team doctor told Herb everything that was going on, and all he cared about is could I do my job? And so in his own way, he wanted people that would be more interested in the team than themselves. And by showing that, you know, my team was my family, right? And so I think it really showed him a lot. So he asked me a question. It was really interesting. 2 questions. He said, Jimmy, what can I do to help? And I said, well, my father needs a loan. So Herb worked with the people in Minneapolis to figure out how to get a loan. So that kind of made me feel better. And the second question is, he says, can you do your job? I said, I can do my job.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So taking that test is a little different. But Disney did ask if they could do it the way it did because it kind of fit my character, you know, so I didn't have a problem with that.
So when you make the team, you're finally on it. Are you you got to be pretty pumped and thinking your mom's upstairs watching this? That had to have been a special moment.
It's just a step, you know, it's just, you know, when you have goals, it's just that you got to hit one, you got to hit another one,
Yeah.
you got to hit another one. And, you know, like people always say about competition, right? Like Janicek was a competition. I didn't care. If the harder he worked, the harder I worked because I had more goals.
Yeah.
If I can't be better than him, then I can't get to where I need to go. So there was never any jealousy. It was I just needed to play better.
Yeah.
And always get better, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
You know
when
exactly what I'm talking
without a doubt. When you're competing against another guy for something that you both want, the time that you think about those types of things where like people say, oh, are you jealous? That could be time used to make your craft better.
Shit happens, right? If somebody's better, they're better. You know it, they know it, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I would happen to think, whether it's you or me, is there was a way to make a save when you look at the guy, like, is that the best you got? And it pissed him off. There was you did the same thing going around, like, come on, man, you can't cover me.
Yeah.
I mean, Larry Bird was the absolute best trash talker in the whole world. But he did that because he had to back it up.
Yeah.
So
He
that
could
was
back
the
it up.
fuel that he needed to do it. Doesn't matter what you have to put in the tank to get that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But when you know you don't have that in the tank anymore, that's when it's really
That's
hard.
when it sucks.
Yeah, that's when it really sucks.
So who was the team asshole?
Me.
You?
Well, goalies are different. You know, I mean, it's like you're not on the bench. You're not out on a line. You're there. You're the coach on the ice and trying to make each one of these guys a little better. And, you know, I think it was a time in my life that it was like, it wasn't fun. You know, I just lost my mother, right? What are you going to do? And this is your vehicle. You got to make the most of that time, right?
Without a doubt. Who's the team prankster?
Davey Christian.
What is some of the shit he would do?
Well, Rob McClanahan was a perfectionist, right? And so, you know, Christian Brothers made the sticks. Right? So Robbie would have 8 or 9 sticks taped up, and they'd be absolutely perfect. And right down by the blade, there'd be a little red little sticker or your plastic covering, right? So Davey would take that off, take a hacksaw, and saw it so it wouldn't quite break if you leaned on it. But if you went to shoot it, it would break, right? And so Robbie was so particular about his thing. So all of a sudden, Robbie goes out, goes to shoot, stick break, pissed off. And he goes, another one, pissed off. And then he finds out that Davey had done that. And so we're in Colorado Springs at the Broadmoor. And, you know, our travels are tough. We got tons of game. And so all of a sudden, you know, Brooks is coming in a little bit late. And Davey, Christian, and Pavlich find that the figure skaters have their tutus, right? And so Davey Christian gets in this tutu, right, with Pavlich, and Herb was talking about forechecking, right? So Davey cut a Christian Brother stick, taped it on, another one. So he had a stick that reached from about here to the corner, right? So he's out there, and Herb comes out, and he just couldn't do anything but laugh. But that's kind of who Davey was.
God, you need a little of that though, especially with that environment. We always had our guy, the Matt Lights of the world, that would do a fucking prank that all the boys could just laugh, and you guys are getting yelled at, you're sweating together, you're bleeding together. Man,
I did a prank on this one kid who would, come in our day, you'd break in your goalie or your skates. They were really hard to break in. So you'd put steam in them, and then you'd tie them up as tight as you could. And there was nothing more painful than what we call lace bite. You all of a sudden you tie your skate and you get lace bite. It's like, oh my God, it was so painful. So there's this one kid, Rory, and he was like helping the equipment manager. And he was a real fan, and I shouldn't have done this, but I did. He goes, Jimmy, is there anything I can do for you? I said, yeah. I go, Rory, I've got these new skates. I need a bucket of steam. He goes, well, where do I get that? I go, you ever see the Zamboni when they come out, all that steam that comes out? You go down there, you capture that steam, and you bring it back. So 3 hours later, he comes back and goes, I can't get you a bucket of steam. I go, Rory, I know.
Oh, Rory.
Roar.
Now, before we jump into the game, we have to hit one thing. What was up with Coach Herb's style? He was pretty fashionable.
Yeah.
Did the boys talk about that?
No, you had so many guys who had him for so long, and other guys who, loved Parker, so no.
Because I remember when Bill once tried to put on one of those old, old hats.
Like a fedora, yeah.
Yeah. He put one of those on while we were traveling. I mean, and I was in a certain bus where he wasn't on. The whole fucking bus is talking. I'm like, what the fuck's Bill doing with this thing on? It was 1922, bro. Get out of here.
Oh my gosh.
What's the maddest Herb's ever been at you?
I don't know. Didn't really have that type of relationship. He was more like a father figure to me. You know what I mean?
Goalie's probably different than the boy. You know what I mean? You said, you're another coach.
I'm not on the bench, right? I mean, I had such a relationship with him that if there was a guy in the left face-off circle that I knew couldn't win a face-off, I go, Herb, change him. You know what I mean? And that type of thing. And I used to stand on the front of the bus in the well and just talk to him all the time. And it was never to gain anything. I mean, you're a goalie, you're either the better one or you're not the better one. It is what it is. But I always liked to pick his mind on what he was doing.
You liked Herb?
Yeah, a lot.
Not the whole team liked him.
No. But what's interesting? When Herb passed and we were all at his funeral, if you said to one of the players who was Herb's favorite, they would have said themselves. Every one of them. So that's the kind of influence he did have on them.
That's awesome. Jackie, let's get into the game lead up.
The lead up to this game, we got
Look at the homework here. I tell you, I am impressed.
Come on, baby. Games with names, Nuthouse.
Let's go, baby.
I love it, though.
We all know about the legendary tie with Norway and the Herbies that came after those. That is part of the lead up to this game.
I still get shudders every time I hear goal line because my coach made us run skate Herbies.
What people don't understand is everybody thinks after that game he was punishing the players. He wasn't. He was developing the assistant coach. So watch it again, and you'll see how difficult it is. Craig Patrick was the nicest guy in the world, but he always wanted to be one of the guys because he had just finished playing. Yeah. And if you watch that, he has the hardest time. And so Brooks is really developing the assistant coach.
Yeah.
And he's doing it through the players, which hurts the assistant coach the hardest because he's so close to him.
Got to callous him.
Yeah. So he's developing.
Yeah.
And if the thing that's kind of amazing about Herb is when we were playing, there was no full-time goalie coaches. But Herb made Warren Strelo a full-time goalie coach. If Warren Strelo didn't have Herb Brooks, he would have been a guy that never left the U, showed up part-time. Warren Strelo was a pioneer, and now they have an award after him in the NHL as one of the best goalie coaches. So now that position from a guy who saw the need of that has gone. Craig Patrick is in the Hall of Fame for a general manager.
Yeah.
So he developed all of us to this different thing, and it's really amazing about, and that's why I'm such a fan of Herb Brooks.
That's incredible.
Can I just take a moment to give some love to Craig Patrick? I'm a huge Penguins fan. He drafted Jaromir Jagr, Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and Marc-Andre Fleury. Most of those guys are still playing. Actually, all those guys are still playing to this day.
Craig Patrick is just the nicest man, and the Lester Patrick Award is from his family and stuff like that. But coaches used to say, I skated, I bagged our team just like you guys were there, and I'd look at him like, you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know what happened there.
Well, that was my coach. Shout out Coach Hazelton.
What's really interesting that most people don't know is Buzz Snyder, Jack O'Callahan, and I didn't even play that game. And so we were watching this game, and when it ended, he skated everybody, and we tried to go put our equipment on, and Herb wouldn't let us. So we didn't skate that game.
Wow.
Then there was the famous 10-3 beatdown at MSG right before the boys headed to Lake Placid. The Team USA was seeded 7th out of 12 teams in pool play. We were in the blue division. Russia was in the red division. Of course, very fitting. In group play, the tie with Sweden, 2-2, was big. Gave, kind of galvanized the fans, gave a little hope that this team's got some juice. Then the upset of Czechoslovakia, 7-3. Norway beat down 5-1. Romania, 7-2 win, and then beat West Germany 4-2. That was the U.S. Then over the Soviets were just putting up goals, man. 16-0 beat Japan. 17-4 beat the Netherlands. Poland 8-1. Finland 4-2. Canada 6-4. And then a telling stat just to kind of show the dominance of the Soviets at this time in their matchups with the U.S. USSR had won 12 matchups from 1960 to 1980. That was every time they faced the U.S. with a goal differential of a 117 to 26. Damn. So it was a little bit of a disparity there.
Jeez.
But not tonight, boys.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, boys. We already kind of went over it, but seeing the Russians in that 10-3 defeat before the games was a great thing for the team because you got to have a practice rep at coaching against them, playing against them, feeling their speed, feeling their style.
If you ever played golf, would you ever play in a golf tournament without having a practice round?
Yeah, no.
You'd have to go see the golf course.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Giants when they, unfortunately, they beat, the Patriots beat them in 2007, week 17. I bet you that game helped them so much just to feel what it was like playing against them, getting coaching against them.
So, it's kind of interesting. Patriots fan, right? So now you got Randy Moss,
mm-hmm.
and you got Tom.
Yeah.
Tom never took anything other than what was available. But sometimes when you have Randy Moss, you say, F it, I'm going to show him I can do that, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's an example of when he didn't manage ego and conflict, right?
Yeah.
I'll show you, and Randy will show you that we can do this, right?
Without a doubt.
And versus spreading out, because now that's what he was so famous about, right?
Yeah. Now, what was the game plan after playing them, losing to them?
Well, we knew we could skate with them, right?
You knew you could skate with.
When we played them at Madison Square Garden, we should have went out there with a notepad and pencil and asked them to have an autograph, right? We were in that much awe, right?
Yeah.
I remember Coach saying to me, Jimmy, just go in this game. It doesn't mean anything. You're not going to play the whole game, right? And so we're playing the game, and I think it's like in the second period, and Karloff comes down. And he, instead of just pushing it in the net, he wants to embarrass me even more. He goes around the net, and he's going to stuff it. Well, I get up really quickly, and I caught him with my stick right here and cut him open, right? Even though he put it in. Next thing you know, the whole Russian bench is going, it means they're going to shoot at my head. Herb goes, come on, Jimmy, you're out. So, I didn't play. I think I played a period and a half of that game.
Need old Jimmy for the real ones.
Shout out Herb for the foresight on that one.
Yeah, they would have shot at your head. I mean, they were so good. It was crazy.
Now, how was Herb pregame? Like, was he a speech guy, or did he just give you keys? Did he rile you guys up?
Never swore.
Yeah.
Right? Extremely prepared, right? I mean, in every detail is incredible. But the speech that you hear in the movie Miracle is basically what he did, and he was our confidence. You know what I mean? They're ripe. They're ready to be beaten. You guys have earned this. All the things. But he never said you're going to win. So it's really interesting in words when you pay attention to what actually is being said. There is a way to beat this team. You guys have the ability, you know what I mean? But you're not going to just do this and beat them. You got to execute.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
Wait, so the movie speech is actually fairly close?
Very close. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. That's badass. Jake, let's get in the game.
Let's go to Lake Placid here for this game, baby. We got to start with who's on the call here. Legendary Al Michaels.
Al Michaels, young Al.
Dryden. Man, young Al Michaels, back when he had the fro. I mean, he was about 12 years old in this one, but legendary. This is at Olympic Center, 8,600. I think the ticket price was like $65, packed to the gills. Soviets get on the board first.
It's probably like 500. That's probably like $400 now. If you think about it, 65 then, 80. It's probably like 300.
It's got to be something crazy.
They say they were selling for 3 times as much outside.
Yeah.
So it's probably $1,000 ticket.
Unreal. Jim, what was the atmosphere like when you took was it just insane?
Well, first of all, you got to think the way of communication that everybody that's listening to this podcast has wasn't even available. I mean, you didn't even have cell phones then, right? So think about it. You don't even have a cell phone. So telegrams are what's it. So from our locker room 5 to the going in is plastered from people who are sending telegrams to us. And they're like incredibly motivating, right? Beat those commie bastards, you know what I mean? It's the one I remember the most, you know what I mean? I mean, this was much more than a hockey game. And I remember this, I was always the first one out. And so as you're walking and I'm about to step on the ice, and I just look up and go, man, this is crazy. You know what I mean? To have that much love from the Americans and that much hate for the Russians from the other people that were rooting for us. So you have the whole world rooting for us.
Yeah.
Right. So it was pretty amazing.
Back to this first period, the Soviets strike first with a Krutov goal. Then Buzz ties it up for the Americans. Makarov goal. We're trading goals here. Down 2-1 the Americans are. Then Mark Johnson, that awesome goal right at the buzzer, going into the first break 2-2.
Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, well, so you know what's really kind of interesting about this is Tretiak's goal that he gives up from Buzzy is a bad goal. I mean, it's a slap shot from the blue line off the angle, right, basically?
Yeah.
So that's a bad goal. So that's kind of good. And then, you know, you figure out, you play it till it's over. So I remember the puck's coming back, and I'm yelling to Kenny Morrow, I'm counting down, Kenny, you got 20 seconds, you got 19 seconds. And so it's like, okay, so every little detail, not like, okay, good, we're only down 2-1. It's not, nothing was over. And so Mark Johnson playing that through the end, and the sloppiness of the rebound of Tretiak, the people who even let him shoot it. I mean, there's a lot of things that becomes very positive for us, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the period, they pull Tretiak, right?
Now, what are you thinking when they pulled Tretiak?
Well, he gives up 2 bad goals. They've got the second goalie, Mishkin, has just beat the NHL All-Star 6-0. I think at the end of the game, we had 12 shots on goal. You could have put a Pee-wee goalie in there. You know what I mean? And what's happening now is Tretiak isn't the future. He was. He's kind of in the past. A lot of these players now, they have a different coach. And if you look at him, he coaches from the front of the bench, not the back of the bench. And they're thinking, you know, I don't need you anymore, Tretiak. And I'm going to show you I don't need you. And the rest of your players, you got so many people ready to come take your jobs, you don't have any idea. And so anybody can beat the United States.
So that was an internal battle, you think?
That was a power struggle.
Wow.
How did you take that last second goal like into intermission? Was like,
well, it's better to be tied 2-2 than be down 2-1. You know what I mean? Who knows when you're ever going to get another goal? You know, the line Brooks gives in the movie is, you score a goal in Tretiak, keep it, keep the puck. You might not get another one.
Yeah.
And was there a moment for you where you felt like, okay, we can actually win this game?
Well, see, as a goalie, you don't think about winning the game. You think about keeping them in the game, right? You know, just keeping them close enough that you don't want to get ahead of them and piss them off, right? You kind of, there's a nice balance here. Yeah. You know, tied where they think they're going to be in the third period and just go do what they always do. Good. Now the clock. So when you're a great team, the amount of time in a game works in your advantage for a really long time until it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Because then it shifts. Now what happens is, you get late in the third period, right? You don't have that much time like you did before, right? Now what happens, everything starts to equal up because now you got to shift against the shift. And you have a coach and a team that is not afraid of you, that's going to keep rolling out all four lines. This guy cuts down his bench. He goes from 20 players to his best 10. They don't come off the ice. You've got 10 passengers now. You don't have a team. Herb's rolling these guys through. Everybody's playing.
Fresh
Everybody's
legs.
involved. And they're not used to this because the best conditioned team in the world at that time was the United States.
Let's go.
And Herb, when he said he's not looking for the best play, he's looking for the right play, every one of us knew how to win. Everyone had won a national championship. And when you win a Super Bowl or anything big, you have to be part of something bigger than yourself.
Without a doubt.
You have to put your ego, check it at the door. It doesn't matter who it is. Whatever your role is, be thankful and just do it, right?
Without a doubt, because, if you're fortunate enough to win something at the highest level, you get humbled and you realize how many things had to happen for you to do that. Now, what was Herb like in between the periods?
He was great. You know what I mean? Some coaches can make you nervous,
Yeah.
right? How many times have you heard, well, our best players didn't play as good as their best players? How about your coaching wasn't as good as their coaching, right?
Yeah.
And so Herb, he was our confidence. He believed in us,
Yeah.
which gave us the opportunity to do, some really good things. See, the other thing that's kind of interesting, right? In the U.S., or you watch a Canadian type game, if a player has a chance to shoot it, they just shoot it, right? So the number of shots on goal, it's many times as a guy can shoot the puck. The Russians never shot the puck unless they thought they could score. So you might play a game against the Russian, and they might score 7 goals, and they might have only had 21 shots, right? But every 21 shots was because they really thought they could score. So it was a totally different mentality. So when you look at the number of shots that they had on goal, it wasn't to just shoot. It wasn't the North American style of play where they just say, well, we lost, but we outshot them by this. Not even the same game.
Calculated. Everything. Now, what's up with you and, when Scout was at the game, there's 3 people in the crowd, you're your parents and 2 scouts, you played your best game. This game, you played your best game. National championship, you played your best game.
Well, you ought to know about that.
Well, I know what I did. What makes you so good?
Well, I think I just love that type of pressure.
Yeah.
You ask, why do you think Herb picked you? It's because that's kind of what it was. You know what I mean? It's just, I get ready 3 days before it, maybe 3 weeks before it. By the time the game comes, I've already played it so many times that
that's what it is.
I don't even have to worry. I never visualized losing. Never.
Yeah.
Right? My mother used to tell my brothers to stay away from him. It's 2 days before a game. You know what I mean? But when I got to the room, it's like, I'm ready to go.
That's what I say. I played my best games in the biggest moments because I treated those moments like they were all the other moments, but also it was my preparation.
Yeah.
It was the work I put in before the game, the visualization of before the game, the going over the tendency reports of what their coverages were on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 10 plus, knowing the play call before it even came in because I was so dialed into my game plan that by the time I ran it, it was deja vu.
Yeah. Well, and I remember telling you when I went to practice and I'd watch you do your steps and I'd watch you count them and I'd watch how high you'd lift your leg to fool a guy. And so nobody else on the sidelines even knowing what goes on unless if you can see it, you can be it. That's what I always tell something, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And so the part that was really interesting is, I knew if a left wing came down off the left side that he was going to shoot across his body 86% of the time, right? And that I didn't guess, but I was better prepared,
Yeah.
Then I learned how to break my body down into 4 separate parts, right? so that this side would only move, or this side would only move, or this bottom would only move. But I would, really be in balance.
Yeah. Wow. Now, how was the crowd going in this during this whole game? What was the crowd energy like?
Third period.
Third period.
I didn't listen to the crowd.
You see, I never hear.
I never heard a word.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wanted them to shoot more on me. I didn't want not them to shoot on me. You know what I mean? I wanted more shots.
Why? You wanted to make more blocks.
I wanted to be in the game.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be standing there and say, "Oh my God, come on, keep it going, just keep going, come on."
39 shots. That's in the game.
Yeah.
Speaking of more shots, the second period was like 16-3. The Russians outshot us, and we got a goal that puts them back ahead. That's the Maltsov goal.
Yeah, he faked me out about 4 times before he decided to put it in. But I remember I was so pissed off at Billy Baker because he's lugging it up the side, and he should have got the puck in, and he didn't. They stole it. They caught him out of a break. I had no time to get set. This guy's coming at me a million miles an hour. In the net.
God darn it.
I'm picking out of the net. I'm going, "You."
You have short memory. You just got to get back into it.
Yeah. I always tell people, how would you like a job that every time you made a mistake, right, a big red light went on, right? They took your mistake and put it up on the scoreboard. They said who scored the goal, who helped them score the goal, what time they scored the goal, and if you missed it, they showed it again on the Jumbotron, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have a different skin.
You got it.
Life of a goalie.
Life of a goalie, which are very, goalies, like kickers, like pitchers. They're always a little on their own. They're in their own world. You know what I mean? You have to be a different kind of psychology makeup to be a goalie, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Gemini. My wife likes one of me.
Yeah. So am I, too.
Jules is a Gemini. We don't like either of them.
Hey, speak for yourself, brother.
Good. Walk us through the third period Johnson game.
Mark Johnson ties it up,
Time
baby.
goal.
Mark Johnson's just a great player. When you think about hockey IQ or football IQ, his IQ is off the charts. You know what I mean? Just a little guy, too. I mean, not big, but just a fabulous player. What he did is he performed, and that's why he was Magic Johnson before Magic Johnson was Magic Johnson. That's what we always say to him. The real Magic Johnson is Mark Johnson.
Hell yeah. Freaking Mark.
That's right, baby. Shout out.
Now, what about the go-ahead goal by Mike?
Well, it's really funny is a lot of people don't know the story, but, Mike had worked so hard all his career to get to this opportunity, right? And, the threats of him being cut were really real. They're going to bring in Neil Broughton's brother or somebody, right? And so here you have Buzzy Snyder, whose nickname was the Babbitt Rabbit, because he was so fast, right? But he couldn't go for a long time, right? So here we are in this game, and all of a sudden you got Buzzy, the Babbitt Rabbit's going around the rink like twice. He's out of gas. He's yelling left wing, and nobody's ready. Mike jumps out over the boards, comes into the play late. Pavlich is on his stick, and boom, it's a goal.
Wow.
I don't know if you're a fan of the Vikings, those things, but destiny, I really think that was Mike's destiny.
Talk about let's go seize our own opportunity. I see it, I'm out. That's kind of like when Wes would get knocked out over the middle. I'd be putting up my fucking chin strap, going out there, and the guy would shake it off. I'm like, would have had my opportunity. Now, you guys are up in the third period. You go up, you get the two unanswered. Last 10 minutes. What's going, how are we feeling? What are we doing to keep ourselves mentally in the game? You were talking your first 2 minutes or your first 5 minutes of each period is huge. Your last 2 minutes of each period. This is your last 10 minutes against the Soviets. What's the mindset going into this?
So it's really kind of interesting is when I started the game, I would tie everything up to slow them down, to give us a chance to get in. So if I had a chance to tie the puck up, I would tie it up. The last 10 minutes is I didn't tie that puck up at all. Kept it going. Didn't want them to realize there's only 10 minutes left. Oh my God, there's 7 minutes left. And so before you know it, they had guys on the ice doing 2-minute shifts, right? And because their egos, I'm done this, we'll do this, I'm the guy, we're going to stay out there. Almost like, to me, what I was saying to you and Brady, I want to throw it to Moss because I can, right? Well, these guys are going to. And so the last 10 minutes of the game is you'll hear Brooks say, "Play your game." Well, I'm doing the same thing. Is keep it going, keep it going. If you ever watch at the end of this game, the clip of just before Al Michaels goes, "Do you believe in miracles?" and that puck's going around. We got 10 seconds. We got that. You notice that nobody ties that up, right? That's because I'm screaming, "Don't tie it up! Don't tie it up!" Because they'll get a whistle, they'll get a face-off, they'll get another guy on. Then now it's about executing. They're in panic mode, right?
Yeah.
So the really end of the game was a strategy of don't tie the puck up, where the beginning of the game was slow the game down.
Now, do you practice this situation? Is that like something that for me?
That's
in
a
football,
feel. That's a feel. You know what I
because
mean?
we practice 4-minute offense, they call it.
Yeah.
So whether a team's up or a team's down, how are you going to be getting defensive calls from them? Do you have to? Are you trying to eat the clock? Are you trying to score? Like, that's a specific situation we used to practice. I was just wondering, do you guys?
I don't think at that time, like, I'll watch a game in the National Hockey League, and someone would say, "Well, look at that save that goalie made," and I'd say, "Well, he made that save because he didn't tie it up, and he should have tied it up back there." So there's, everything is situational. So for me, I try to have a high hockey IQ in the goal, and say, do we want faceoffs? Well, if you play lacrosse, right, and your centerman's the best one in the thing, you want to have faceoffs because that's how you can outscore a goal, right? But if your guy can't take faceoffs, then you don't want him, right? Well, at the end of the game, we don't want them to know how much time it is, because you can feel that they're in panic mode. Their coach has lost the bench. The players are now going to do what they want to do. They don't have a rhythm to them. We got a nice rhythm going on. And I don't want us to know that there's very little time left. You know what I mean? I want it to run out on them before they know.
How the hell you keep the energy up? So last minute, you see it's the last minute. It's trickling down. You're probably getting more and more intense, more and more focused. When the clock hits 0, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
My mother.
Yeah. It's badass.
Yeah, I know. I saw it immediately. I turned. You can see that thing in the stands of me looking for my father, is because I wanted to show respect. The opportunity that I was given was because of my mother, right? And so even though she wasn't there, she was there, right? And for my father not to give up after losing his spouse for that many years, and to be there. And ABC had moved my father's seat, so he wasn't where he should have been. They moved him for television. I didn't know that. I thought he had a heart attack. That game was pretty intense, right? So I'm trying to find him. But no, immediately my mother. And what's funny, Jules, and honest to God truth, is I saw everybody in that moment who, the first time I played with the Bears, and the guy who from the community who gave me rides, and I saw all these people that kind of like flash through for this journey that I was fortunate enough to be on through their sacrifices.
That's what people don't realize. It takes a whole lot of people for, every one of those guys that were on that ice. Not everyone has a different situation, but there's a lot of people in those camps that, your old coaches, your old equipment staff.
God.
That's pretty awesome that you thought about those people that helped you get to where you're at. Your mom.
I got to share this one story, right? We're going out. We're going to be playing the Russians, right? And so you've got the Secret Service around, and you got all these New York state troopers, right? And all of a sudden, the state comes and goes, "Hey, Jimmy." I go, "What?" I'm sitting, because I always had the first seat ready to go out, right? So he goes, "Listen, there's a guy out here. His name is Andy Filey. He says he's your goalie coach from BU, and he's got his daughter. They don't have a ticket. What do you want me to do?" I said, "Get him in." So there's just before the game, but he drove all the way up from,
Fucking crazy.
Lynn, Mass to be there.
That sounds like someone from Lynn, Mass.
Yeah.
We'll just take our chances on it. We'll go up there. They'll get us in. That's Lynn, Mass.
Jim's
right?
got us, baby.
Lynn, city of sin. You never come out the way you went in.
Oh, Lynn.
Oh, my goodness.
We all know Lynn if you've been in Boston. Now, what's the biggest misconception about this game?
That our team wasn't as good as it was. I mean, the Americans hadn't made the NHL yet. So there's a lot of really great players on that team. Our team was a really good team.
Yeah.
But do you believe in the line? Like, there's a line in the movie, it's like, "Tonight you are the greatest team in the world."
He believed it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, if you go back and listen to some of the words, because I'm a word guy, you were meant to be here. this time is yours, and he was setting a mindset up for people to believe, right? And, I always tell people the impossible becomes possible when you believe, right? And to me, when I prepared for my work and I came up with that quote, it was because that's how I felt from this man.
Yeah. When we were down 28-3, I was just continually saying, you got to believe.
Well, what's so funny? My signature that I do, I write believe.
Yeah.
Believe. But it was funny. We were watching this game. My family and I were over. My sister wants to have a party. They're over there. And people now aren't paying attention to the game. And I'm saying, the Patriots outplayed them. Everything went wrong.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I leave. I say to my wife, I got to get out of here. I'm going home. I'm going to watch this game. This is still a game, right? And so I remember calling my son, huge fan, JD, right? And I said, JD, it is not over. They need to score in their first possession. And, kind of went over there.
Dropped a third down.
And you know what I loved? And this is the winning underdog, because you asked me to explain that. When that prick that owns the place came down and started celebrating a little bit beforehand, it was like, come on, guys. You can't let this guy do that. You just can't let this guy do that, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, there was a lot of people on those sidelines.
So I got to tell you a fun story. So Burge, right?
Bears.
My son wants to meet Tom, right? In the absolute worst way, right? So we kind of get this thing arranged, and so I'm on the sidelines, and Burge come over, and he goes, and my son's right beside me, and he gets to go out, and my son starts coming. He goes, no, you can't go. Right? So I go out in the middle. I'm talking to Tom. Bill's got his whistle. He's slipping it around, going back and forth, coming back, and JD's going, what happened? What just happened? I go, JD, I have no idea. You know what I mean? So I don't think my son's ever forgiven me for that.
Oh, tell him I played on the team for 12 years. My parents never went on the field once. So
Wow.
that's just how it was.
Yeah.
You got to be an Olympian or something to get on that field.
Crazy, right?
Crazy. Now, locker room after the game, boys are having fun. What are you guys drinking?
Myself and Mark Johnson was taking in because they have a drug test.
Yeah.
So they always go to the person that's, in their mind, I guess, would be the high-performing person. And so the guys are celebrating. We're sitting there. We're trying to drink beers enough so we can take a leak. You know what I mean? and so it was really funny. But, what's interesting is when Herb got this coaching job, you had the U.S. U.S. hockey, and if you watch the movie, how they all questioned whatever else he did, right? So when the game ends and we win, you got the vice president's in there, and we're on the phone with the president of the United States, and all these guys who doubted Herb at the beginning, who was a part of that committee, try to come in. Herb goes, get out. You wouldn't let him in.
Hell yeah.
I love that.
Fucking, well, he was right, man.
right.
He believed in it.
Believe in the system.
Man, I mean, you guys still had another game, so I'm sure it was hard to really, really celebrate. But once it was over and you guys finally got the gold after the next match, that relief and all the grind that you did for 6 months, the 88 games or 60 games you guys played in 3 months, like anytime we won a Super Bowl, it was almost like the relief, and like you're just so, yes, you're excited that you won, but the job was done. It's more of that. We got the job fucking done. That's like, and there's no more pressure for that year. So like, that's when you feel, that's like the happiness that I felt out of our championships were, the job's done. We got it done. What was?
Well, it was that specifically, but there was such a whirlwind, and we were in such a bubble. We really didn't know what was happening. And then everything happened so quickly. All of a sudden, these guys you've been with forever, you'll never see again. So with you, no team's the same every year, but you got a nucleus of the guys you're going to come back and see. You've got a contract. This is over, right? And, and now you're going to go to different teams with different expectations, and you're going to be competing each other, and not everybody is rooting for you. It'll never, ever be the same.
Never be the same.
Never.
Yeah, is there like a group chat between the guys now, or like
There is
How much you
now.
stay in
You know,
touch?
you know what's so funny is you didn't have permission to appreciate what you did because we weren't established in the National Hockey League. And you know, I remember I'd go to every town, and after every interview would be there, and I'd be sitting with Hall of Famers on the team, and people would come up and ask for my autograph, and I'd be so embarrassed that I would sign it and I would just give them back. And then they'd get pissed that I didn't hand it to everybody else. I'm thinking, I don't even want this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and so it was very, very uncomfortable.
I can only imagine. And it was on tape. So, like, who'd you call after the game? Because there was a 2-hour delay, right?
Well, let me explain it for our fans. So this game was famously not broadcast live. It was broadcast live to tape. It was a whole thing. So the game happened at 5 p.m. Eastern. It played on national television at 8 p.m. Eastern. So there's a 3-hour gap.
So, did you call anyone?
Everybody who meant anything was there.
Everyone who meant anyone was there.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered.
So, and you know what?
I agree.
I remember after we win the gold medal, we're at Lake Placid. Have you ever been to Lake Placid?
I haven't.
It's a little teeny village. It's crazy. It's where you go to fulfill your dreams. Now the Iron Men that go in there. I mean, it's a cool place, right? So we have myself, Arizioni, Jim Lampley, Jim McKay, and we're walking down Main Street, and it's snowing, and there's just, you know, people around you. So you're in the middle of the snow, and you got this chant, USA, USA. Now, do you know where that chant came from?
No.
We're playing against Finland in the Olympic Games. Finland's winning 2-1, and two part-time firefighters from Lake Placid get in the game, and it's quiet. And the Olympics haven't even started yet. And they start the chant USA. And so the chant USA was started by two firefighters from Lake Placid.
Fuck yeah. Let's go.
That rocks. That
I
rocks.
can't even imagine.
And now you think about the chant and you know how it's used and you know to have those guys that, you know, remember, agents buy flags, they give it to people now, they tell them where to wear it, they know what camera it's going to be on. The flag that was draped around me came from a guy's house. He brought it from an attic from, you know, with his father or something was in a war. Yeah. You know what I mean? They didn't sell them there. So you see all these flags. This is patriotism. This is like.
You know where that flag is now?
Yep.
You still have it?
Yep.
That's awesome. You know what? Like, I can't even imagine. Like football, we don't get to ever represent our country. You know, they got the flag coming in, which if flag was going while I was playing in my prime, I would have jumped over in the flag leagues just to try to get that, just because of that chant. You're getting to go out and compete for your country.
But the other part now, the Olympics have changed because now you have professional athletes, which the Olympics when we played the Russians, that's what they did. They basically were professional, but they didn't have an option, right? So
Yeah.
it isn't like they could come over and play. And then we could only represent. So guys that were on our team made a sacrifice not to turn pro to choose the Olympics.
Yeah.
None of these professional athletes have to do that anymore. Hey, listen, I'm going to wait a year before I go make all kinds of money because I'm going to play in the Olympic Games. And then they argue about whether they're going to wear the Nike swish because that's who's paying them, and I'm not going to wear the Olympic thing. It's like, and I'm not going to stay in the village because that's not good enough for me. And you know, I'll go if I get TV rights so that I can be. You know, it's lost the meaning of what these games are. And you know, I in a lot of the speeches I do, I'll show a photo of countries at the games. And they'll say, you know, the USSR here, USA is here, there might be another country there. And I'll tell people, look at that photo, what do you see? And, you know, a lot of people will think, well, these are Olympians preparing to win a gold medal. I go, no, some are there and they're just happy to be there. Some are there are preparing to compete, but some are there are preparing to win. And it doesn't matter. It's life. It's really what it is. You know, some people are happy to say, I played in a Super Bowl. Who would be happy with just playing in one? You know what I mean? I mean, that's when we're trying to describe what a winning underdog is. It'd be like, are you kidding me? I had that opportunity and I didn't take full advantage of it. That'd be crazy. And that's the discipline that teams that have great locker rooms they don't let those players not get ready.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, you better be ready. We might need you.
Without a doubt. Everyone's got to roll.
Yep.
What's the aftermath, Jackie?
Yeah, put a bow on this game. Team USA won 4-3. Jim saved 36 of 39 shots. Mark Johnson, 2 goals. Mike Eruzione with the game winner. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the U.S. would go on to beat Finland for the gold medal. The whole system was, we could do a whole episode on how kind of confusing, convoluted the whole tournament setup was. Jim would finish as the tournament's top goalie, saving with a save percentage of .916. Let's go, baby. The Soviet Union would go on to win the next 2 gold medals in 84 and in 88. 13 members of this team would go on to play in the NHL. Jim played for the Flames, the Bruins, and the North Stars. Yeah, this one's iconic, baby.
What's the best perk you got from being a gold medalist? Especially, I mean, the perks that you got from this, you guys defeated the Russian. You guys saved the Cold War. Like, this is a different kind of perk than like now.
So we flew on Air Force One.
That's fucking. How was that?
Whoa.
Incredible. So, first of all, it's a political thing now to bring a team into the White House.
Without a doubt. I went to twice.
So it wasn't with us. So all of a sudden, Herb's telling us, hey, guys, we're out celebrating. We're in blue crushed velour sweatsuits. We haven't shaved in 13 days, right? We got nothing. Everything's packed, right? And so Herb says, tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m., meet us, in the hotel, right? And so one of the guys goes, what for? He goes, how? Because the President of the United States and the First Lady had invited you to the White House, right? And we go, shit, what are we going to wear, right? So we stayed up all night. We get there, and all of a sudden, we get on this bus, and this bus takes us to this little teeny airport in Saranac Lake. And there's an airplane waiting for us, but it's no ordinary airplane. It's Air Force One.
Jesus.
So I get up, and they put me in. I sit right in President Carter's seat where he sits there, right? And we take off, and all of a sudden, this Marine in perfect shape comes up to me. He says, Mr. Craig? I go, yes. He goes, is there anything I can do for you? I said, there surely is. He goes, what's that? I said, I'd like to call home and tell my dad where I'm at. Now, the cell phone hasn't even been invented. I'm a wise ass from Boston. I think it's pretty funny. Next thing he walks up the aisle of Air Force One, has this great big box, and he says, what's your telephone number? So I tell him. Next thing he hears, and. Of course, the phone's busy. My father's telling the whole world that his son and 19 other guys want a gold medal. So I go, oh, darn. And the Marine says, oh, no worries. Next thing you hear is, Mr. Craig, this is the White House operator. Your son would like to speak to you. My dad goes, cut the shit. He never believed it, but that was a pretty cool thing.
Wow,
That is awesome.
was the food good?
Yeah, because Carter said, hey, Jimmy, is there any special meal you can get for me? I said, yeah, lobsters.
Let's go.
We're from Boston. What do you expect?
That's right.
Man? Fucking get lobster.
That is awesome.
Coolest piece of memorabilia that you got from that? The flag? Maybe the flag that you got?
Flag is awesome. I have Tradiac's goalie stick that he played in,
Wow.
which was really kind of cool, but I have the memories. That's the greatest thing I have.
Without a doubt. Let's score the game. This got to be the greatest upset in the history of the sport.
It's not for me to say.
I think it is. For me, it is. I mean, just because of the story, and it's probably, he doesn't want to hear that because they probably thought they were the best team. But with the stakes, everything that was going on, and like the unfairness of the Russians getting to compete for fucking like 30 years together, this team's like 28-year-olds, pros. That's crazy to me.
Do you think USA will ever win a gold medal again?
Well, they're not even underdogs anymore. I mean, the USA hockey players is as good as anybody, and we got more people, so I would expect they certainly should, right?
What's your thoughts on U.S. hockey right now?
They're great players, and winning something that big, you have to have a group of guys that are willing to do what it takes to win, right? And that's going to be interesting on how it is. But from a talent standpoint, they're not underdogs anymore.
Yeah.
The development program probably came out of what you guys did and all the interest, and they make that.
Well, it's really interesting. The USA Hockey, only because Dave Ogren is a really good friend of mine, and you try to run USA Hockey, a nonprofit, and you start to understand how you get the money. Well, they started getting the money for that program from the National Hockey League, who gave it to the Canadian program. So the U.S. program had to get better in order to get more money. And so that's where a lot of the money comes from, right? And so the greatness about this game now is people are playing it everywhere. Yeah. And what I love, and I think what our team really helped, was with women in ice hockey and how great those women players are, which is just such a great thing. You know, made everybody want to be a hockey player.
Without a doubt. Let's grade the game. Any leftover questions, Jackie?
Jim, Kyler, and I were arguing about this a little bit earlier, but after the dust settled and you got the gold medal, was there ever a moment where you and Herb bellied up to the bar and shared a beer together?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
You know, every relationship is based on the need of the person you're having that relationship with. You know, and I would venture to guess that your relationship with, just say, Belichick is different now than it was when you were playing.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And how you can help him now, he's probably more vulnerable than he would have been if he was your coach, right? So, you know, I just always think that your life is full of different chapters of your life, right? And as I said mine now as a grandfather, it's like the greatest chapter, right? But the part that I think is important is you want to write these chapters. You want to be in charge of these chapters, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to try to live from the past. And so people might say, well, you make a living out of what goes on. No, I spend a ton of time being relevant and taking what I've learned in business and in life and from being a parent and make it useful and try to provide people with tools. And, you know, one thing I always say to people, you never tell people what to do, right? Because to me, when somebody tells me something, that means I'm not smart enough to understand what they think is right. I like to invite people to think differently, right? Be curious, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of interesting. And so when I watched your show and how you guys prepared, and I saw all the work that's going to be done, you know, as part behind the scenes or on the scenes, it was really interesting to me, right? And I've got some ideas for my own business from seeing what you guys do.
Let's fucking go. You need someone to produce it. We got a production company.
Yeah, no, I got it.
All right, let's name the game. Do you have any specific names for this game, or is Miracle on Ice pretty good?
I think that's about it.
All right, just making sure. Is this the greatest game of all time? Let's score it. Jim, stakes, 0 to 10 decimals okay. The stakes of this game that technically wasn't the final, but a huge bump in the road to get to the final.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't, you know, it's like if you don't win, you don't go on, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I'll tell you a story where after the second period of the game against Finland for the gold medal, and we're losing 2-1. Well, we've gone from the underdog to the favorite. The whole place is booing us, right? You know, we've gone like, hey, man, you beat the Russian, you can beat anybody, right? And it's, no, you can't, right? So it just shows you how fickle the thing is and how strong the players were to be able to stay focused.
Without a doubt.
So am I supposed to give a number to this?
Number 1 to 10 decimals okay, Jim.
So this got to be a 9.8.
I like that.
I would say a 9.82.
Jack with a 9.4. I had a 9.9.
I mean, we got the Cold War. Okay, this is goddamn Russian.
Countries on the line.
The star power of this game, 0 to 10 decimals okay.
Well, so the star power is lopsided, right? So it's more Russians, and then there's the unknown, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger star power in the particular sport that you're dealing with. So, you know, that's got to be really up there too. So, give that a 9.5.
Nice.
Some Hall of Famers from both sides. Herb Brooks Hall of Fame.
I'm going 8.9.
But the other part is they would have been Hall of Famers. They just couldn't have played.
Yeah, they probably all would have been Hall of Fame.
So here's something kind of interesting, right? So there is the Hockey Hall of Fame, and then there's the International Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, right? Well, I am fortunate enough to be in the International Ice Hockey Hall of Fame. You would never be able to get in there now unless you were a superstar in the NHL and the other ones. But So when you look at the star power, the people on that Russian team, every one of them is in the International Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, which is higher than the Hockey Hall of Fame. So when you're looking at their credentials, it's pretty high.
I mean, put a number on a bunch of fucking legends.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
It's hard.
that's crazy.
Jack's number is 7.0. Just
I was kind of the Russian judge here, if you will. Sorry, guys.
I had an 8.1.
The gameplay of the game, the back and forthness, the entertainment value for the viewer as a player, your gameplay, 0 to 10 decimals, okay.
Well, I got to believe from everybody who's ever told me, it was like they were like absolutely 100% intense. So it's a 10.
Edge of your seat all game, baby.
Absolutely.
I'm going, without a doubt, a 9.2.
9.2. Jack.
And I don't want to have it overrated because it's the game I played in.
Get out of here.
I usually give people shit for overrating games they played in. The Miracle on Ice, you get a pass.
When I look at gameplay, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about
Just the game in general.
And the name of the game
Miracle on Ice. You're actually grading the name of the game.
and the cultural impact.
Cultural impact.
cultural impact. So is it 2 questions or is it 1?
It's 1. Just the name of the game.
I don't think the name of the game does it justice because I don't really think it was a miracle.
I like it.
So the name of the game for people who don't know what the work and things we put in would have ranked much higher for me, but it wasn't a miracle. So I don't know what else I would call it, but I'll give that a 7.
For me, I'm not a hockey guy. I became a hockey guy when I went to Boston and started living around a bunch of hockey dudes and worked out with hockey guys. But I knew what the fucking Miracle on Ice was. That is a 9.2.
I gave it a 10.
Jack with a perfect 10.
Perfect 10. All right, let's clip it up. Let's see. This could be a high ranks. This is
gonna be high, baby.
This could be the highest on our of the games we've done.
Buckle up.
9.16.
Where does it go on all of our games that we've done?
It's 4th, just ahead of the Snow Bowl game, 2001 AFC Divisional Round, Patriots versus Raiders, and just below the Malcolm Butler game, Super Bowl 49, Seattle versus Patriots.
This isn't a Patriot bias podcast either. If you see the top 5 games,
Only a little bit.
So
Yeah.
4th, not bad. We're a little
4th.
biased.
That's insane. Out of how many games have we done now?
70.
78, I believe.
78 games. These are all.
70. Good place for it.
Is this our? No, this is our second. This is our first Olympics.
Yeah.
First Olympics.
Wow. Jim, we miss anything?
No, you guys are great. You guys have done so much homework, and your intentions are good. There's not a show like yours. It's special, right?
We appreciate
Thanks
that.
for
Commend you for that because it's not easy. It takes a lot more work, right?
You know what this? Know where this came up out of? Kyler, we were all talking right before Thanksgiving around this time. We went down to he went to his local bar and some guy came up to him and he's like, "You play on this high school team? Remember this one game?" And nothing's more fun than talking about historical games with people that were in it or involved with it and then scoring the game. So it's a fun thing. And that means so much to the people right here. You see these guys? What you just said.
Listen, I've done this for a long time, right? There's always hidden agendas, right? There's always about ratings, and there's quick ways to do it, and there's right ways to do it. You guys are doing it the right way, right? And you'll get more people who come on because you're doing the right thing, and so your name matches up to what you do. So it's impressive.
We appreciate
Coming
that.
from you, that means the world.
And
Seriously.
I just want to take over for 1 second. I'm a Massachusetts kid. I played hockey my whole life. Like, I went to high school when Miracle came out. Like, this game means a lot to like the Massachusetts hockey identity. And just thanks for being here because I really appreciate it.
This is going to be huge. Thank you very much.
I've always wanted to meet you, so that's even more cool.
I feel like we've kind of met. We've rubbed shoulders in practice, but you know how.
Yeah, I just remember the one time, I'm sitting with Bill, and he's dry and stuff. So, okay. So I don't know if you remember this, but I go in, I'm speaking, and so Tom is right in front of me, and Jimmy Garoppolo is right here. And this guy, Rick Kimball, is really good friends with the Bradys because he flies Tom's dad in to see all the games. So this guy brought LinkedIn Publix. He's got all kinds of money, right? So I go, Bill, so, what can I do? How hard do you want this to go? She says, no, Jimmy, do your thing. I said, okay. So I remember her saying, hey, Tom, this really means a lot to you because you've been here now and you've won and you know how hard it is. And, you come from a great family and I know your mom and dad is really good. I go, Jimmy, what do? Do you bring Tom's shoulder pads outside and when he's on a TV thing, stick your head in so people can look at it? Or are you preparing to take his job like he did Drew Bledsoe's? That's how I started the thing.
I remember that now.
And then the other part that was really fun is I remember saying, how many people here are rookies? And, they all raised, all these people get up and raise their hand. I go, you're not rookies. You're New England Patriots. And the expectation that Belichick has for you is not of a rookie because rookies make mistakes. And he's not going to have you. You're a New England Patriot, right? The other day you were a rookie, but you made this team today. And so the mindset that I always felt that you guys had was, it didn't matter if you're a rookie, you're a teammate, and you're expected to do your job. And if you're put in there, you need to execute. And there's no excuse for it. I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care if you're hurt. I don't care if you're tired, right? So it's really kind of interesting.
No, yeah, I do remember that. Because everyone didn't know if you could, laugh or, go.
It's funny is there's teams that you coach, and sometimes there are teams that you can only manage. A football team is so big, you can't coach that team. You have to manage that team.
Well, you got to rely on your individual coaches. It's a true team. You can't micromanage. That's why, Bill's also great at that.
So is Brady the team captain? Shit, no. Nobody can even understand how he gets, does what he does. He doesn't have anything to do it. Then he would say Slater was the guy.
Slater's the guy.
We've got his inhaler over here.
Yeah, I lived with Matthew Slater for 4 years. We bunked up before we had money. Go check out Jim. You're going to probably see him at a business talk or something. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming. Hey, I'm going to talk about something serious for a minute. Something personal. Right now, in our country, hate is at an all-time high. It's like we're going backwards and hate is winning. It's out of control. So many different people, so many different groups are facing too much hate, and it's enough. We need to stop and regroup, change the momentum as a team because that's what we are. Everyone in this country is on the same team, so we need to start acting like it. And when a team can't get it together, what do? They call a timeout. We need to call a timeout against hate. Let's think about what we say and do. And when we see hate, when we see someone doing or saying those things we know are wrong and hateful, we need to call it out. Visit standuptoallhate.org to help. And join me in calling a timeout against hate by following @What'sUpWithHate or posting the blue square emoji. Man, I just want to go scream USA for the next 2 days.
All-timer. Can't do games with names. We can't be on the search for the greatest game of all time without doing Miracle on Ice.
You can't.
That was unreal.
Unreal. That
should have been higher. Should have been
number one. Should have been one.
Yeah.
I do feel a little embarrassed that our top 4 are fucking Patriots games.
Yeah, you got to start texting non-Patriots people to come on.
I know. Who going? Van Noy.
KVN, baby. He's still out there balling.
I think I almost cried 3 times that episode. But man, as a Massachusetts hockey guy, that was just fucking surreal.
Sharp guy.
Yeah.
Knows how to, he's really taken his time and his experience, and he even said it, to reflect. And he's very thankful for everything that has happened in his life. And I really liked that. And that was really refreshing for me. Because sometimes it doesn't matter who you are in your life or what's going on. You could have everything in the world. Sometimes you don't feel great about what's going on or this, that. When you sit next to a guy like Jim Craig, it'll make you feel great about the shit sandwich you're about to eat.
Hey,
and who knew
facts.
he was so close with Coach Belichick?
I know. It's crazy.
As soon as he said Nantucket, it's like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
yeah. That was
What did he
awesome.
say? Thank
He's
God
like,
I didn't go to Boston College.
That's right. Broken like a true terrier, baby.
So Boston College is at that time was better than BU?
they're both
That's crazy.
I think
But
for a
I think
Catholic
it's a
guy.
Catholic guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, BU's a little bit, or BC's a little bit more.
Wow.
No, that's
Man, that was fucking awesome.
That was all time, man. That was all time. And it feels nice to be the glazee and not the glazer
know.
sometimes. Feels pretty nice.
He was glazing you.
Yeah, collective glaze.
He was
I loved it.
glazing the shit out of you.
In the best way possible.
I think about you now every time my daughter orders a donut. She's like,
That's
Dad,
right.
my favorite is a glazed donut. Do you believe in miracles? That is such an iconic
the answer is yes.
saying. It's not a miracle, okay?
And I was gonna be like,
Not a
Hard work.
fucking
hard
miracle.
work on ice.
Yeah. Hard work on ice. Hard
This
work
doesn't
on
have the
ice.
same ring to it. I don't know.
But because of Al Michaels' iconic fucking miracle call, I think we should go relive some of the other greatest iconic sports calls
yes.
in the history of the game.
Starting it off. Who wants to start this bad boy?
I'll
Jules?
start it off.
All right.
All right. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count.
And then that was epic, bro. That is Howard Cosell from the 1973 heavyweight championship, Frazier versus Foreman, when Foreman knocked down Joe Frazier and then went on to win in a second round TKO.
Down goes Frazier.
And down goes.
And down goes Frazier.
That's an all-time, like that one just pops up
Yeah.
in random conversations,
This-
no matter what.
Do you think if Frazier didn't go down, we get a like
Frazier's hobbled.
I wonder.
Frazier's hobbled.
Do we get the George Foreman? grill
I
if
wonder.
Frazier stays up.
I wonder. We got to, that's a whole nother, we could
Maybe
do a
it'd be
whole,
a Frazier grill. Maybe they would go after him
I
instead.
think it was supposed to be the Hulk.
it was
Hogan
supposed to
grill.
go to Hulk, I think.
Oh, Hulk's
But
probably
the story was, yeah.
he's probably hating that.
Yeah, the story was I think his son was sick at school, so Hulk missed the phone call to go pick up his son Nick from school, and then they ended up sticking Hulk with like a
The
blender.
Hulk grill?
Yeah,
Was it a Hogan grill?
we should have, I guess. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
man, the stranglehold that the Foreman grill had on American
On
households,
tabletop appliances.
it is
Really?
incredible.
I
Let's do a
so
doc
many
on that.
Frozen patties I put on that thing.
Oh my
in
god, bro!
college. Oh my god! And that thing was so dirty
Yeah,
when you had it in college. It
in the
was
little
filthy.
tray.
Thank God I had that low service area. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the next one? You got the next one.
Kai guy, you got to get this next one from Kevin Harlan.
You gotta do that.
All right, should I do this one? This is a long one.
It's a long one. That's why I'm not going it.
Oh boy. This one is from a Rams 49ers Monday Night Football game, 2016. There's 11:34 left in the game. The Rams are in Levi's Stadium playing the 49ers. 49ers are hosting. They're up 21-0. This has been like a pretty bad game overall. It's just like kind of boring, nothing much going on. Punt fest, blowout, as we can tell by the score, 21-0. And a man runs onto the field, Kevin Harlan, with an iconic call. Hey, somebody has run out on the field. Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle of the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested, banging on his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Oh, they got him. They're coming from the left. Oh, they tackle him at the 40-yard line. That was the most exciting thing that happened tonight. The man is drunk.
But there he goes to the 20.
Like, this is so good that normally they cut away from this and the NFL wants nothing to do with it. The broadcast wants nothing to do with it. You can still go on the official NFL YouTube page and watch this clip.
Well, this was a radio broadcast too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
The man is drunk.
The man is drunk.
I think the NFL should start showing.
I don't know why they
Yeah.
don't show him.
It's fun.
It's probably you never know
to
because if
encourage
something
people to not streak, I think.
that and then also there's gonna be one of these times something crazy happens. Maybe a titty out, a D
Yeah,
out.
Sorry. I gotta say too, I'm a streaking purist, baby. You gotta hang on,
You gotta
baby.
go. Yeah, you can't just like put your shirt behind your back.
Yeah, come on. Then you're just a jackass. Be a real streaker. Have pride in it, baby. I'm old school.
Old school.
Guy, you want to get what?
I don't know either.
You want me to? Jules?
I want. Yeah.
Which one?
I like the Kurt Gibson.
That's a
Kurt
great
De La
one.
Rosa was named after him.
Was he really?
Yeah.
It's Kirk.
I know, but his dad wanted it different, but it was named after Kurt or Kirk.
Oh,
Sox waiting on deck, but the game right now is at the plate. High fly ball to right field. She is gone, folks.
and then you got to do the.
Man,
so
he
the
was
situation here was Dodgers Athletics World Series Game 1, 1988. LA trailed 4-3. Kirk Gibson came
hurt.
the pinch hit with a 3-2 count, 2 outs, man on first. That's like the situation you always draw up in the backyard.
Hurt Kirk.
He'd been hobbled. He could barely run. Got hurt in the series before this.
You know,
all
he was
time.
like a fucking crazy 3-sport athlete. I heard he was like an insane football player.
I did not know that.
I heard he could have been like a crazy. I think he was like a stud. He was a stud.
Stud.
Havlicek stole the ball. Career putting the ball on play.
Oh, yeah, we got
He gets out, but Havlicek steals it. Havlicek stole the ball. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over.
Shout out to Johnny Most. That's our main man, Hondo, John Havlicek. That one just, I mean,
Did I just mess up that Havlicek?
I think you did, but it's all
Jack's
good.
gonna be upset.
Career
about that.
putting the ball in play. He gets out, but Havlicek steals it. Havlicek stole the ball. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over.
That did it justice. That was awesome. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, 1965. Sixers, Celtics. The C's go on to beat Wilt the Stilt. Casey Jones dribbled out the clock in that one. Johnny Most immortalized that call.
I'll do this one. 4th and 5. The national championship is on the line right here. He's going for the corner. He's got it.
That's the iconic call from Keith Jackson. 26 seconds left. Texas has the ball. 4th and 5 from the USC 9-yard line. USC was leading 38-33 at the time. This was for the whole kit and caboodle. 06 Rose Bowl, USC, Texas. A game we must do on this podcast. That is an
We got to do
all-time
this
call.
pod. We need Vince Young.
Yes,
Vince Young.
Vince Young and McConaughey.
that would be epic,
Because
bro.
we know we got Liner and Bush just ready.
I got
So you got
this.
this last one?
I got this last one.
All right, you got to do this one.
They get it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh no, the man is on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's got into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored. The man is out on the field. There's flags all over the place. Everyone is milling around the field. The Bears have won. The Bears have won. Oh my God, the most exciting, sensational, dramatic, heartbreaking, exciting, chilling finish in the history of college football. The man is on the field.
You put your whole back into that one. Oh, my God. Eat your heart out, Joe Starkey. That was awesome.
I remember watching this one. Or not watching it, but this is, I mean, grew up in the Bay Area.
I was just going to
so-
say, how important was this in the Bay Area as a legendary game, a.k.a. the
Stanford.
play, a.k.a. the big game?
You know, considering this was like, wait, what year was this? This was like
82.
80s. Yeah, this is before me, but like everyone around knew this play. Not a big college football area. We're a
Right.
pro sport town.
Right.
But, you know, I knew that everyone knew this play. Everyone knew this play. It was crazy. And the band is on the field. I lost my voice from that.
That was awesome.
John
I'll get you
Elway.
some hot tea after this, Bubba.
John Elway was quarterback.
John Elway, Ron Rivera was in this game.
Ronnie.
Ron.
Like Nolan was someplace.
This
part of this game.
I still don't understand why he had to knock out the trombone play.
Here's-
Why is he going to go and bang?
Here's the real question. Let's say you're returning a punt, and this happens. What are you doing?
If I'm returning a punt and this happens, I'm using the guys as defenders.
You're like taking a band.
Kind of like a referee, bro.
Yeah.
If this guy's on, you got to use the referee as a sometimes you use it as a pick, a little something. You're using whatever's on the field. Don't get mad at me. You're the player. People are on the field. You got to use them.
Sousaphone player.
Yeah. Put him on skates, weaving through them. And that Stanford band, you know, there's some wild kids. There's some wild
Man,
ones.
those are fun.
That was so fun. These are some iconic calls that just, like we said, they elevate the moment.
And we can we just do Al Michaels real quick, just because we're here
Yes.
and it's Miracle on Ice.
Yes.
Do you believe in miracles?
Yes.
I love that one.
He does believe
Not
in miracles.
that I was.
Not tonight, boys.
That I,
Dude, I was so happy to hear that how faithful most of the Miracle movie was to
Yeah.
the stuff that happened.
Fucking Disney.
they got it right
Sometimes
with
you
that
got to tip
one.
your cap to Disney.
Oh, that little Craig Patrick story about the springs. That was interesting.
That was interesting.
Yeah, you know what? That wasn't about putting the boys in and developing the boys. That was about developing the coach. Sometimes a coach needs to be developed and the boys get in the way of it. That's what
Let
Jim Craig said.
boys watch.
Fucking love Jim Craig. What an episode. Thanks again to Jim Craig.
Thank you, Jim. That was
Thank you, Jim.
incredible.
Iconic, man. That was
Iconic.
legendary.
Not like an old Boston accent either.
That's true. It
You
was
know?
hitting.
You can hear it a little thing. You know, he lives in Florida now. He probably hushes it up a little, but I bet you get a little grandpa's old cough medicine. He sounds like he's from fucking right out in the Southie, I bet. Back in
Facts. Those R's are turning into H's.
R's are turning.
And also, shout out to my dad and my dad's friend, Brian Raymond. I was texting them for a lot of information from this game. My dad's friend, when the team in USA beat Russia, him and his buddy got in a truck and just drove to Lake Placid. Didn't have a place to stay, didn't do anything. They slept in the back of their truck. They smelled like gasoline. They were able to sneak into the gold medal, not the gold medal game, but the bronze medal game. And they were there for the medal ceremony. He wanted me to ask Jim if he smelled gasoline. I didn't think it was appropriate, but shout out Brian. Shout out Junkman.
Well, Jim's goalie coach, or what did he say? He had some coach just drove right up. Was your dad from Lynn, Massachusetts, like those people?
Methuen, not far off. Not far off.
The city
Love-
of sin, baby.
Hey, love Lynn.
Lynn.
Gotta love Lynn.
That was awesome.
That's been another episode of Games with Names. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Comment a game you want us to do, and
Rate and review.
remember to follow Games with Names on YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat. Leave a message on the old hotline, and that number is 424-291-2290. We'll see you guys next week. Games with Names is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.